Before I bought this place, I was really getting into permaculture and, reading, studying, learning, and was intrigued with all the food forest ideas and plant propagation. So planting things from seed, cuttings, and grafting. And so I had a field down the road, about 3 acres, that I'd grow seed crops in, and I started a couple nursery beds and would just put cuttings in. And I remember my wife at the time was like, "What are you gonna do with all that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'll figure it out later."
We got land, we'll plant it.
We didn't yet.
Oh, okay.
And so when I first got here, it was cool because I had all these walnuts from seed, chestnuts, and just I was 28. I didn't know, and I was excited. So, like we used to mulch, hand fork all these gardens here, like try and make it all exactly like there was going to be some award for being a good little permie or something. And now I'm like, this works.
You watched the interview back with Don on the farm. This is going to be a tour. We're going to see what the farm is encompassing, all the different patterns, details, how you've kind of like initiated things and how you might change things, and how the farm has just evolved over the last 20 years.
Yeah, here 26. So welcome to 7 Seeds Farm, and we're also the home of Siskiyou Seeds, which is a bioregional seed company that we grow most of the seed here and operate from here. It's also a bit of a living laboratory, if you will, of we're actually earning a living farming, where I've raised my 2 sons here, and the land is what pays for our life, and the continuing evolution of the implementation of the design, because we had pretty much a clean slate. So like from here looking up, we had about a little bit more than 2 hectare open hayfield. And so we've planted all these trees, and over this is year 26 on the site. And there were basically 3 hay fields, and the previous owners just ran it as like a hobby farm with livestock. So really a perfect setting for us because we have a year-round creek with water rights, and we knew we wanted to do keyline water system design. And so actually, year 1 we were here, we actually hosted a 2-week advanced permaculture design class with Tom Ward and Randy Carey, focused on water systems. And later in the course, we actually brought in a backhoe and dug test holes, and we're able to look at what we had for soil. And we have 4 soil types here, so it made it a little confusing. And I'll address more of it when we see the ponds. But we have one field where it's a really nice silty loam, great for farming, but you get down about 8 feet, and we are scraping gravel. So if you were to build a pond, it would just drain. But great spot for trees and swales, because that 8 feet of loam is a giant sponge. So we'll see that where, thankfully on this side of the creek, we have more of a clay loam. So it works really well for ponds, unlined, and we've just been able to use the native clay from here. So early on, my plan was more like permaculture food forest, but as the principle goes, you can't live on an empty stomach. So we were farmers, so we were growing vegetables, medicinal herbs that we would sell on contract, and seeds on contract for other seed companies. Seeds of Change, Johnny's, High Mowing, a bunch of the major ones. And planted trees as we went along, but they take time. And I always like to explain, like on an XY graph, vegetables, like year 1, boom, you're making money. Or flowers or herbs or whatever it is. But trees, year 1, you're making no money, and there's all this work, but the yield curve goes up and the labor goes down. Where vegetables, it's like to grow corn, it's the same amount of in a way, probably labor goes up and your production goes down because you're depleting the soil over time. So that's the long-term plan, but the reality is like a high value-added crop. Like now we have our own seed company, and we operate an order fulfillment center here, where we ship all over the U.S. and Canada. We used to do globally, but now like phytosanitary requirements have made it just such a pain that we don't do that anymore. And pretty much most of the seed companies I know don't do international shipping, unfortunately. Anyhow, but that we're able to, I've watched the more we focus on value-added stuff, we farm less land. Like I used to lease up to 3 other fields in the valley for isolation plots for seed crops. So now we're making more money farming less land than ever because we figured out which crops it makes sense to grow for seed that we make money. Some of them are loss leaders, like beans and corn, because you put so much seed in a packet and they're kind of land extensive, whereas others like garlic are good. And that's one thing I see over time, and I didn't know this at the onset of creating a farm. is your real yield is the information and the inspiration, not the produce. The people that come here are impressed whether we're growing 1 hectare of seed or 2, or I could say, oh, we've got these other plots, like another couple of hectares way over there. It's all impressive to them. So at a certain point, you have to figure out, like, what do you like doing? And I like inspiring other people to create their own versions of this. And I think seeing it done is so valuable. Like this food forest behind us, like, okay, that's 25 years in or so. Some things I started from seed earlier, and here's what it turns into. But I would say doing a tour with a group is more valuable than whatever that could produce, even though we still need food. So we're in a funny, and that's one thing I compare and contrast with my cousin who married into a Thai agroforestry, multi-generational agroforestry family farm in Thailand. He's been there for 25 years, and it's like they're really doing permaculture there. Here, if I needed to, I could just go get a job and buy all the food I need. Like, we're actually like food abundant in the United States. But I feel like this is practice for maybe someday this actually will be really important, but it'll be more important for the propagation material, the knowledge base of like, oh, these varieties, or, this plant spacing, or here's how you have to baby, let's say, hardy kiwis to get them up to where they all thrive. So I think that is happening concurrently. So I see, like, at first we were more like a truck farm, going to farmers markets, selling to restaurants, CSA, wholesale, and then contract growing seed, and then now it's our own seed company. And also then the education component increases, because early it wasn't that impressive, like all these baby trees. But now people come and they're like, I'll be like, oh, it's at the barn over there, and they can't even see it, even though it's like 100 meters that way, because there's so many trees and vines and all that kind of stuff. And the education's cool. So, and now I think, like, our most important crop is my 2 sons that were literally conceived, born, and raised here, and now live here in their own spots. And so seeing what they can do with it. And one of the things I would tease my interns, or some of my best interns would become multi-year workers here, is like, this is like a spaceship. Like, do you know how to pilot a spaceship? And, like knowing all the species and what needs water and what, just all the things to know. It's vast. And I've been doing this my whole life, and, since I was 18, even younger, and still so much. I'm amazed at all that I'm constantly learning. And some things I'll beat my head against it, like this cherry tree. You can see it used to have a bigger trunk down here. Oh, no, he cut it down. But it gets bacterial canker, and they just keep dying. You can see here the disease. So it's like, I'm so glad I didn't set out early as a young man and be like, I'm going to have a cherry orchard. And so part of that is visiting other people that have already done that. And for instance, there is a farm called Rolling Hills, and they did peaches and cherries. And my friend Dave that ran it was all certified organic. He said, I cut down 10% of my trees every year because they're dying. And it clicked for me too. It's like nobody plants a raspberry patch or strawberries and thinks they're going to have it forever, even though perennial. So I think that generational wisdom, that it's like, oh, just keep planting cherry trees if you want them. It's fine. Like every 5 or 10 years, same with peaches. Like raspberries, you do that. You start a new patch every now and then. And it's actually a blessing, because then you get to transition that crop, which is ultimately every fruiting plant is a pioneer species. And I think if you have the idea of like your system you want to hold at the pioneer phase, you're not thinking long-term enough. And that's, one thing now. It's like, well, what is the climax of this system? And, apples can live a really long time. So that's where I'm really seeing like, oh, cider, brandy, fresh juice, dried apples, like, or even animals that are just eating the fruit as it falls on the ground. It's fine. And that's all I've had pigs in there, and I've even put my sheep and goats in there, just for a little bit. And that whole, like, the original Bill Mollison said, in an ideal permaculture system, 70% of the crop is consumed by animals in place. And so it's an animal crop-based system. So we'll walk through a field where I'm like, we're now 25 years in, I'm seeing like, we used to do row crops, and we had all these swales and little quarter-acre plots in between. But now I'm seeing like, oh, the trees are getting big enough. let's plant more hickory, pecan, chestnut, that kind of thing. Expand our animals, cows, and move towards a system where it's milk and meat and just the grazing and leather, hides. And
through the whole succession to get there, annuals, perennials, fruit trees,
exactly.
berries.
High value. Well, you need the high value crops because you can't work on an empty stomach. So for us, the fact that this farm can make, a chunk of revenue every year, then I think a ideal permaculture farm is a break-even affair, and that the profit is the knowledge-based systems. So when people are buying seed from us, they're buying the seed, but I always say we're actually a service provider. Through my experience and my network of other growers that know about stuff, we know what grows here. We know the good varieties. We're constantly searching for new varieties, and it's kind of like if you go to a bookstore or a library, they've got the books on display, like these are the good ones, editor's pick and that kind of stuff. So a good bioregional seed company is kind of like that.
And you can't get that from Amazon.
No.
Even if you can get the seeds themselves,
Yeah.
You can't get everything else that's attached to it.
Yeah. Or for your area. Amazon is like just for what's trending. But, most people don't want the regular kind. They don't want McDonald's and all that. So, it's been interesting over time seeing that with the trees, and I maybe one of my boys will do it, but it'd be so cool if somebody came along and like, who's breeding disease-resistant cherries? Maybe there is somebody out there. And I saw like those videos, like Lizzie Chi is like one of my heroes, and now there's like ones popping up in Thailand and stuff, and they're taking the bacterial canker, that like amber resin, and they soak it in water and they make a food, like a jello out of it. I'm like, oh, wow. I was pissed off at that disease, and now these people eat it.
Problem is the solution.
Yeah. So, I think it's still unfolding, that emergent, like, where does this design go? So to imagine 50 years in, and these trees are huge, like there's a weeping willow over. I mean, if that doesn't get cut back, it's going to be so big, it's going to rule out other things. Or this is a whole row of Italian prune plums, and they just grow from seed and grow true to type. So we dry them, but usually there's so many falling, and just it comes at peak August, summer. There's so many other things happening. So I tell neighbors, like, oh, come pick all you want and dry them, or plum wine or whatever. So I think understanding, like, where does your farm system fit into the larger mosaic of your community and the needs of the community, and where are things going. And so that, I feel like I've coined this term evolutionary agriculture, of just, do you have a plan for it to evolve? And, so like this little plot here, I used to do a little seed crop thing. I remember growing Swiss chard for seed there one year, and one year it was all echinacea for seed and roots. And now it's raspberries, and I just planted the raspberries, but I'm noticing plum seedlings, and so I'm like, do I allow them to grow and prune them up high, still get the raspberries for a couple years, and can your business model and marketing follow the evolution of the whole thing? And one of my mentors, Tom Ward, talked about most of our agriculture is growing weedy annuals in arrested succession. And because you think all the vegetables that we grow, the annuals or biennials, they were weeds somewhere on the planet. And useful, but we keep knocking the system back to a primary stage of succession through tillage, which gives us a lot of yield through mineralizing the humus. But now, if you want the soil ecosystem and ecology to grow, so you're not having to import anything. And that's been cool, watching the apple trees. Like, I don't fertilize these. I don't mulch them. We'll mow underneath it, but it's mostly for access, to be able to pick it and stuff.
And otherwise you're letting the spontaneous winners self-select.
Yeah, totally. And, thankfully people have done disease-resistant breeding on apples. So these are like Empire, Enterprise, Gold Rush in here, and those are all resistant to fire blight and another apple disease. And they just produce nice quality fruit. Because we're in the same market, if you're selling fresh fruit, of people that are used to going to the supermarket and holding a perfect apple that only was perfect because of chemicals. But with breeding, that is possible. So, yeah, just nobody's done it as far as I know with cherries.
Yeah. maybe one of your sons are interested.
I know.
Do they express any interest in kind of doing parts or kind of like setting up their own enterprise within the farm ecosystem?
You know, my older son is definitely active here. I don't get the sense, we're going to go this way, that he's super into the annual cropping system, and partly because that's my focus. I'm the person doing the seed and all that and the farm design. So I think leaving a little bit more room, as we're about to walk through, we just redid a bunch of fencing and expanded it. And so he's been the point guy on that, and he's really interested in forestry. So the fencing has a tie-in because we're using juniper and black locust and yew wood fence posts, which are all rot resistant, some of which we grew here or came from the forest. So for him, and then it's a way to build his like emergent woodworking skills with doing the wood posts. We're using wire and T-posts as well. My younger son, he's 19. It's too early to tell. And I'm kind of more like, you guys should have big like electronic music dance parties here because we have a sound system. Bring people here, and the ones that want to like come early and help can help on farm stuff or more farm as backdrop for whatever you're doing. And I think my older son is seeing that too because it's like it's an incredible backdrop. He's a videographer and helps other people produce content. And for him, it started. He in high school got a nice camera for still photography, and people would come out here to do their senior portraits.
Oh, cool.
Because that's kind of a tradition here in the States of like, especially young women, like, and so we'd have fields of dahlias and flowers, and so he's using the farm, but not for normal farm stuff, more just as backdrop to charge money for photography. So I just think we each have to follow our own guidance. And I've met a lot of people who grew up on farms that never want to have anything to do with farming or ranching because, like my one friend, his dad would make them straighten bent nails on their ranch in Eastern Oregon. Like, not all day, but like shit like that, This is I don't know if you guys use much of the Elaeagnus.
Yeah.
Normally it's like, one thing I've noticed here, and this I find fascinating, is we bring a new species. Like I'm one of the only places in the area that has any of the Elaeagnus. This is Gumi, which is Elaeagnus multiflora. And there's a select cultivar that produces larger fruit. We have seedling ones around. And it would just be loaded, thousands and thousands of berries on it. And the birds wouldn't even touch it. And just this year, I think wild nature, because we're in a drought, is less abundant of food sources. And they swarmed it. And they were just gone right away. I'm not joking, like I'd say 10 times more fruit than leaves on this thing. And it takes a while for wild nature to notice these new plants in the ecosystem. Like aronia is another one, chokeberry, Aronia melanocarpa. The birds don't even touch it.
Yeah.
But late, if we were not harvest it, late in the fall, they would come in. Mm-hmm. And maybe they're like, well, there's nothing else out here. So
you got to be on it with the harvest.
Yeah. So in here, I've got this like weed cloth with different perennial seed crops. This is called gypsy wort. It's in the mint family. We save seed from it. And, we lose some plants like in here. Gophers get my artichokes, but I find you just got to keep planting them. And we get seed from artichokes and sell that. Over here, we've got a bunch of different things. And sometimes when there's holes of plants that die, I don't plant all the same thing. I'm like, I know how to identify the different things, and they're not going to cross.
Yeah.
So we've got French sorrel for seed. This is a cool plant in the brassica family called Maltese cross. It's a perennial, and then valerian here that we'll get seed from, and it's kind of more than I need. I don't know why we planted so much. In the back end, I've got motherwort. And you can see
the gophers. Is that a problem with the flower crops at all, or is it just the isolated kind of certain vegetables, artichokes?
The gophers they were bad at first, and I had to do a lot of trapping. We've always had dogs, and they like digging them up. They're kind of a non-issue for me now. Okay. And I'm not sure why. I think you just have to make peace with certain things. Like we have this plant, poison oak here, that is like poison ivy. The oils would make you break out in a rash. I used to get super bad, and then after a while, I've just years of watching bees pollinate the flowers, berries on them. I'm like, oh no, you have a role here. I'm not afraid of you. And I feel like I made peace with it, and I don't get it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm also like not rolling around in it. So same with plants. I think there is a relationship over time of watching them, or like the artichokes, I used to like make little wire cages and just like, kind of be like, you go first. Now I'm just like, they're easy to start from seed. Just plant 100 of them. And if 20 make it, you're still going to have more artichokes and more artichoke seed than you need. So
Yeah.
I think that's part of a permaculture approach. It's just like plan for abundance, plant more than you need. So like here, I can tell local herbalists like, oh, if you want to come dig up some valerian, it like pops up as a weed all over the place here. And so in here, I just established some more stuff. There's a licorice here. This is a Gaillard. I mean, what are these? Rudbeckia. It's a little breeding project. There is stuff in here like Egyptian walking onions. I just planted more artichokes down there. That's a thistle, a beautiful thistle called Echinops, globe thistle. Makes these cool purple ball, kind of like an artichoke flower. So I like this because it's I can see the trajectory. Like, okay, the trees are growing up. I'm going to lose this space in maybe 20 years because the apples will be bigger. But in the meantime, I'm getting some cash crops out of it. And it's beautiful. You could see all the butterflies on the valerian. And even allowing, like I noticed this white oak growing here, and I left it intentionally. And, you can see the big white oak over there. So here's a climax. And maybe someday, 50 years from now, I'll be dead and gone. This actually has like cows and sheep and goats and pigs grazing in it. And there's new fencing. And that's the thing it's hard for me to see because like, there's like the mind of one designer and their creativity. I haven't really done, when I was with the boys' mom, it was like collaborative, but I was the main one. So now I'm even ironically noticing like my son is starting, this is a rose. I didn't do this. There's all this bedding that just got put here because he likes roses. And he's like, Dad, why don't I have more roses? And I pointed out, and this one had been suffering. And so now I'm including another designer, creativity. And so you can think of, by analogy, like a painting, and if we go back to Da Vinci, when he was 14, he was a bastard. And so his dad sent him to work in this painting studio, Verrucci. And so as you're learning, first you're just stretching canvases and then you're mixing paints. And same, and then eventually it's like, okay, you paint the rocks in this painting. And then eventually, wow, you're really good at the anatomical stuff. You do this leg. And there's like some famous paintings where like Da Vinci did the legs and you could see the muscles and everything is perfectly accurate. And then right next to it would be these like cherubs or like little angels that look like cartoon characters. And you can tell it was like a different artist. And so by analogy, my younger son, Jasper, who's 19, is more like stretching canvases, mixing paints. He's weeding. I'm paying him. He's work trading. He doesn't really have a say like, hey, Dad, have you thought about this? My older son, who's almost 24, now has all these ideas and is looking for like, what if we did this? And I think that is, so even within the larger system, there's like the creativity emerging from the center point. But then from the outside culture, like those gummy berries. When I had interns, we would pick them and put them in little half-pint baskets and sell them at the market because Ashland has a lot of people that are all about superfoods. And if you could describe it well and talk about nutrient density and omega fatty acids and the carotenoids and lycopene and all this stuff, they're like, oh really, for $5? I'm half flat, or a whole flat. And I have people now that a whole flat of aronia berries, whereas somebody that doesn't know each one is like, God, this is gross. It's like really astringent. So I think that's like information from the outside that is influencing the design. And I think that's always, I think it's important for folks to like go to farmers markets, go to trade shows or whatever it is, because that's how you learn the emergent trends. And, like for instance, we started selling potato seed, which is actually just, potatoes for planting. And we can't really grow them disease-free here. So I've got a buddy up in eastern Washington that grows 30 acres of organic potatoes, and he's got like 30 or 40 varieties. One of them is called Purple Majesty or something. No, Huckleberry Gold. And some potato breeder bred a low glycemic index thing. So right now, eating carbohydrates is like, if you're, on a keto diet or this, you don't want to eat carbs, and potatoes are pretty rich in carbohydrates. So here's one that isn't. We sold out of that so fast. And so now I know, I'm like, oh, here's an emergent, we're back to the idea that we're not a product supplier as a seed company, we're a service provider. We facilitate the experience of gardening through the genetic resources of seeds and plants. So I think the more we do that, then, just we're one organ in the body of a larger system. And I think that's always important to understand,
Well,
like
your
context.
Can be adaptable
Yeah.
because the way you set it up. You
Yeah.
don't set it out and say, I'm going to be the cherry in the plum orchard.
Totally. And, and classic farm stuff, like my big dog, Aslan, has figured out when we don't want him to get out, he can just sneak under here. You can see his white fur. So my kids found this old milking stand for when we used to milk goats, and they've been using it to block that up. So, even though neither of them ever milked a goat, and you can see the old little collar we'd like
Yeah.
tie up the leg of the feisty goat to keep it from kicking or putting its foot in the milk stand. But I'm always amazed, like the farm infrastructure that gets repurposed and recycled and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, onward. So here we had this year-round creek that's called Horsetail Spring Creek, and when I first moved here, the previous landowners had animals that would just graze right down to the water. And there are a few of the bigger trees like these cottonwoods that were here, but all these pines, like the incense cedar, I planted. We had a big work party. I didn't plant them all by myself, but maybe 1,000 trees through here. And the idea is we wanted a healthy riparian corridor for this year-round creek. And when I first moved here, this would go dry by the end of summer. There'd still be water and pools up above in the forest, but down through here. And I think, the trees and improving, it's many factors. All the ponds we built. Oh, here you are. You heard the gate.
Yeah.
Poppy can just sneak under. So now it flows year round. I'm sure the ponds have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And also, like, we've thinned the forest above here. We've done some controlled burns. Because every tree is kind of like a straw. In a way, but they're also, the hydrologic cycle is like, it's looping. And shade. I think the shade is that's probably one of the main contributors.
Yeah.
Let me open the gate for her. And you can see, these are all cottonwood. Come on, Pop. Come on. And so at first we put up this deer fence, to keep deer out of the field, but we were also, after the trees were established, a buddy of mine was the head of the Watershed Council local, and he's like, you ever think about grazing your animals through the riparian corridor? So it was about, a 300-meter long corridor through here. We have it fenced at the bottom, and at the top you can see the sheep trail down by that little cabin.
Yep, and that's maybe, 20 meters
Yeah.
from the creek up to the fence?
Fencing is like
Yeah.
it's hard to interface curves with straight lines. This year, because we're expanding our fencing, I made the decision, I'm not going to graze the sheep in here. I think I did one grazing. You might see some remnant, well, that's wood, manure from that, but you can see all the cottonwood shoots. So, like, that can turn into that big, tree that's maybe, a meter across.
Yeah.
That's going to be a game changer, because look how many are here.
All over.
And then we can begin to pollard them for food for livestock, whether it's in situ. But I've been, it's just interesting. This, you can imagine, this is a lot of grazing space that's shaded and valuable, but it also kept this system from evolving, because they would eat any new tender growth, like a little oak seedling or something, they would just eat. And same, normally, you'll see in the forest, it's a very diverse, like Pacific Northwest riparian forest. So this will be an interesting, it's all an experiment in a way of just.
But I love that evolution of, first just get the riparian areas planted, and then maybe allow the evolution for a pollard kind of riparian grazing system.
Well, and it's interesting too, like I was mentioning too, when you include the creativity of other designers. So my son and his girlfriend have been learning hide tanning. So they've made this their hide camp, because they can soak hides in the creek here. It's nice and shady. It's a really nice place to be. So, I think that's one thing. There's these unintended consequences of a design that, I never would have thought that. I do think it's a nice spot to hang out for sure. And so that also influenced the decision to not have the sheep here, because one thing with sheep, even though they're like pretty independent, they would always overgraze right here because they wanted to wait here. Kind of like, hey, you left us over here. And this would turn into this like fly infested, manure trampled scene right where you want to hang out. And I'm like, oh, that's an incompatible, those are incompatible uses. So, yeah, so we'll see.
You know, it's the same with the ducks on our farm. Is like, there's always way more just impact.
Yeah.
And the area closest to the house, like whatever area they're fenced off in, like whatever's closest to where they see us coming from every day, like that's the area that gets the hardest.
Yeah. You know, you can see they're all right here at the gate. Like, even though they have, you know, over a hectare, they can be grazing on. They're social creatures at the heart of it. Okay, you guys aren't coming out. We're coming in. My shearer just contacted me, and he's like basically saying I'm retiring after we actually had a date. So normally I have had them shorn by, you know, sometime mid-May, and now we're mid-June, and I've got to make some calls. So this field is a long rectangle. We built 7 swales here, all just with a little D4 bulldozer.
Yeah, you can see that water.
Yeah, and so that's just runoff from these sprinklers that have been running all night. This is all gravity flow from the creek. So that's another thing of the design, is like having the gravity flow and sprinklers and being able to run drip enables us to establish trees. Like in those pallet enclosures are newly planted chestnuts.
Oh, nice.
And the flood, long term, it's all set up for flooding with the swales, where you just fill it and you can see it. It's just running down. I love flood because then it's like, I mean, look at even that swale filled up.
It's full down there, just below that.
Yeah.
What tree is this? I was seeing this all over the place. It's not just in the picture.
Yeah, they're black locust,
Is it?
pseudo-acacia.
Yeah, I was seeing yellow flowers on a lot of them.
Yeah, that's honey locust, which is Gladistia, I think is the genus.
It was funny. I wasn't seeing the thorns on the ones with the yellow flowers.
Yeah, these have white flowers, and the flowers are edible. And that one, you can see the trunk's much bigger. I've pollarded this a number of times for fence posts.
Yeah.
And then that pile of sticks down there, I noticed seedlings come up of them, or it's root, like here's from roots from the cottonwood. But the animals just eat them down, so I piled brush around that, hoping to have another one pop up.
Is there a negative association with that tree here in this area?
Some people do. Like people from the East Coast that come are like, I can't believe you planted black locust. But highest BTU firewood, rot-resistant wood, edible flowers. The foliage is a legume, so the animals love it. I'm like, win-win. Thorny things are great in the right spot. In a way, I wished I would have early had hundreds of seedlings of them, plant them as living fence posts that are also thorny, and you can see a lot of homesteaders planted them 100 years ago, 150 years ago. And here, this is a good example. We had to redo this. So this is yew wood, which is very rot resistant. But here's what the old posts, just all rotten and stuff. So you can see the state of our fencing as animals rub on it and trees fall on it. And I think in hindsight, there's a part of me, and maybe I did try, but I was like, why didn't I plant trees right along the fence line? And then they grow up and support the fencing.
Well,
and
you've started to do that now with the chestnuts over on this top side.
Yeah. So, it's emerging, but some of it's, while we're busy farming annual crops for seed, it doesn't leave all that much time for...
pollarded any of the other black locusts, or is that they're the only one?
Yeah, there's some in another area. This is one, I've never intentionally pollarded that. So that one is probably 28 years from seed.
Yeah.
And to germinate the seed, one of the tricks I learned is you pour boiling water over them. Yeah.
A lot of the acacias that we use from Australia, you just light them, you put them all in the seed pot in a metal bowl, light the bowl on fire, and then way higher germination.
Yeah. So I need to turn this off as we go by. Yeah, so here's chestnuts. You can see this one has been growing for a while, but look at all the dieback.
Yeah.
And then even look at this black locust here. It does not look that happy.
No, that's it.
And it'll probably die. Look how his yellow leaves. It's got tons of water.
You can get part of what it's not enjoying?
You know, more and more, you look at the way nature works. A plant makes a gazillion seeds, can grow back from the roots. You know, it has all these strategies. Let's see here. This is farm tech. Well, it used to have a thing. Whatever. Yeah, so this is a field we used to do row crops on, and I put into clover, and it's actually time to get the animals off of this spot. And I've always found they tend to like graze the lower areas more than there's all this room up here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So here's another swale with trees established on it. This one, all the trees took. These are Turkish tree hazels. And we did cross fencing so that we could, when we were doing row crops, let's say we grew garlic in here, then we can plant it to buckwheat or Sudan grass, close it off, and then let the sheep graze. And I always love that, like mowing cover crops with animals is awesome.
And your spacing here on these is like 20 meters between each.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it wasn't, we had the bulldozer here, and we're like, I don't know, little quarter-acre plots is kind of how which just seemed to make sense. But now you can see all the blackberries that have come in makes it hard to harvest the nuts, because really you want to like shake them or whap them with a stick.
Yeah, you didn't plant those blackberries.
No.
The birds planted for you.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the fruit set on that. So what we're going to do it'll probably happen I don't know. Daniel.
Probably get a team of goats walking in here for a while.
Well, I'm going to use the tractor and just rip out the fencing.
Okay.
Because there's a sprinkler line in there too, but the blackberries grow up above it. So, and then I want to be able to graze underneath it, or mow, or weed eat all the blackberries, so that it would look like this under the tree.
Yeah.
And then we'd be able to harvest the nuts, because you can look at the production we get on these. They're just starting, but there's a lot of hazelnuts here.
And part of it is that there's the fence on that tree line, and so the spontaneous things, that the fence lines, they have that opportunity to
Exactly.
be undisturbed there, turns into this. So what, in the retrospect, would you have put 2 sets of fences on either side of the tree line?
I would have if I didn't know anything about growing hazelnuts, but then Oregon is famous for growing hazels or filberts, and I look at the way the commercial guys do it, and they completely clean with herbicides underneath, and then they have nut shaking machines, and then a sweeper thing. So I'm like, well, on the low tech, we'd maybe have long sticks with a hook on it and just jerk on it, because if you just wait for the nuts to fall, the squirrels and the birds are going to get most of them. So I'm like, how do you simulate that? Because obviously that, as a pattern for the commercial production, emerged through many iterations. And the blackberries is an incompatible thing. So if I had to put the fence, 10 meters off, it would have made more sense. But at the time, the trees are small, and we use pallets up against the fence, 3 pallets to protect it from the sheep. So it made sense, but
some of the discussion around syntropic agroforestry and how it matches with, actually imagine how you're actually, capital A, going to harvest, whether it's the filberts or whatever, especially olives. When you're shaking the tree, you have to be able to get
look at that rascal.
Irrigation out.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, but you got to be thoughtful about what's the actual harvesting plan.
Exactly.
What's the mechanization? So
and then what are you harvesting?
Forestry, it's like, if you had a bunch of other stuff in between here, that becomes infeasible. And so you're actually planning, cool, what are you actually planning to harvest for the first 7 years while things are establishing? And then be happy to clear out, and then have it be reasonable for you to get whatever netting or systems to actually get in there and do it, rather than we just got all these other plants mixed in and we're going to do it all by hand.
And the jungle is nice, in a way, appealing, but then those are the agronomic considerations. What's it like for the land steward? And those kind of things, we have all these old bulb crates. We've got some of the tools and stuff to do it, but that nobody really tells you that. You're just excited to plant, and then you're like, oh, I got to water it. And hey, Daniel, I never see him over here. It's funny. Sheep do this. They get stuff stuck on them, But this is back from when we used to grow annuals here. It's funny. So here, another swale. But we like lost some of the trees in through here. It's just, we had like 20 goats for a while, and they're just so rough on. That's why we don't have as many goats. I like them, but...
This tree line looks like it has, was that a honey locust that I saw?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's some of these that are like multiple trees planted together. These white flowers is a native plant called mock orange.
Ah, okay.
And then there's an apple. This is a seedling apple. And then you can see the honey locust, the foliage is a bit more dissected, those compound leaves. Yeah. And then here, this is I think a Russian olive, like the Elaeagnus umbulatum or something. And then there's a Carragena arborescens. I wish I would have planted more of these, a Siberian pea shrub.
Oh, yes.
This one doesn't look super happy, but... Yeah, well, I've heard that the pods have 30% protein in them. So in a way, they're like a, chicken food plant. Here's another honey locust. It's funny how I planted on the same day. That one and that big one over there. And just, yeah, tree sighting is just such a, sometimes it's a mystery to me. Whereas you look from here, you can see these hazelnuts. They're all about the same size. And I didn't have any of them die. And so, yeah, hazelnuts with an understory of blackberry.
Yeah, super productive.
Yeah. So in here, these are different walnuts and persimmon, the Asian persimmon, Dispyros lotus.
Okay.
And these, they produce what people call them jelly dates. And so they're still flowering. The flowers are these cool little things there. And these make a ton of fruit that's about that big. You have to really wait till it gets soft, but it's mostly birds, and these pop up everywhere. So part of me, I kind of like the idea of, like, you can see this strip of oaks that's along the edge of our field, and then there's a road. I'm sure that there's persimmon seedlings all through there, and probably nut seedlings from our walnuts up here. So
do some selective pruning, selective thinning.
Yeah, well, and the idea is over time, like, that these plants naturalize, and that's, I think it takes, for me, it's taken 25 years here to see, like, well, what is naturalizing, and go with more of that rather than the things that are really difficult to grow.
That's part of the laboratory, right?
Yeah,
Spend the first few years, high diversity, see what works.
Yeah.
Allow the things to naturalize. Oh, cool, these passion fruit just go crazy.
Exactly.
When I plant one, they just get spread everywhere.
Yeah. So this up here, I've got a bunch of walnuts, a Japanese walnut, and then in the cages, I think the light-colored one is a pecan that I just planted, and then that's another pecan. And then my son was noticing, turn off the sprinkler.
On the swales, these are just kind of in the middle of these.
Yeah, there is. Well, in here, there's a big kind of horseshoe-shaped swale, because you can see the way the land is shaped here. So this swale wraps all the way around over there. But it's really deep soil. Like, we dug a test hole here 25 years ago and went 8 feet down. And that's where my friend Tom Ward is like, you should do your nut trees over here. Like, that good deep soil is better for trees. Like, on rockier ground, it's pretty easy to improve that top, 6 to 8 inches or whatever for growing annuals. But the deep soil, these trees will be able to get in and really... Yeah, I've heard Japanese walnuts can eventually get to be a canopy spread of like 30 meters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, eventually this is going to be a nut forest, and there's, like, even over here you can see all these seedlings. Like,
it's already your silver pasture. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, yeah. And this works perfect. Like, you just can't have them in here at once the nuts are dropping, because they eat them. Right. Unless that's your plan. So these are seedlings from this. So my son was like, Dad, can I dig those up? And I'm like, not now, they'll just die. But in the winter, let's dig these up, and maybe these are ones that we, like, plant on the fence line, or, we're kind of I'm calling it 7 Seeds Farm 2.0, because we're revisioning the way we do. Like, here, I never got around to establishing clover, so it just looks sad because I didn't do it right. But, right now is not the time, like, going into our dry season, to establish pasture. So in the fall, we'll get in and do that, but this whole area, like, there could be another nut tree right here. That's kind of what I was looking at. It's not so much the swale, but the canopy. and the idea of a closed canopy system, because you look at the native forest is a closed canopy system until a tree falls. So this whole field eventually just being one big silvopasture experiment, and then finding what are the compatible trees. And right now, if we were to show up at the market with walnuts, no one's doing that. But you have to, again, how are you harvesting them? How are you drying them? How are you husking them? And that's one thing I think that the enthusiasm around permaculture or syntropic agroforestry, like, oh, let's plant all this stuff, like a smorgasbord of diversity. But it's like, you look at commercial agriculture is specialization. Like if you're growing walnuts, you have the right equipment and all the facilities to do that. And then you are also incentivized to create the market for that. And so like with the seed company, I don't sell produce anymore. We sell apples and pears and stuff. But I'm like, no, it just doesn't make sense at all. Like if we're every annual spot, we need to be growing seed crops. And now we have a whole network of like 24 other seed growers that we'll contract with. You can't really buy wholesale seed. It doesn't exist. Nobody grows on spec. Right. It's only like, will you grow this?
Well, and a lot of that is like how specific certain crops are and like how much you need to know even just to do one crop.
Yeah.
You need to know IPM, you need to know pruning, harvesting, shipping, propagation, like all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine having to do all that deep knowledge and integration for not just you, but your team, staff, whole operation for 12 different species.
Exactly.
It's like...
Yeah. Well, it's like with walnuts, there's like this walnut husk fly I know that exists. So if you go big and you get the pest or disease, but I think a lot of us were inspired by, like I gave the book, The Woodland Way. Have you ever seen this by Ben Law? No. He's in England, and his whole like permaculture system is all using the native forest or planting chestnuts and other things. And he does like steam bent chestnut walking sticks for the like medical system. He has a contract, and he makes like walnut wine and chestnut products, and then does bent wood furniture out of chestnut. Like he's created this whole way of being with all these species that make sense there. And I think when I was younger, I'm like, that's what I want my world to be. But he's in England, where there is more of a forest lore, and all those hardwoods grow really well. So yeah, at the beginning, it gets back to that, like the design. You're sitting there at the blank page. What do you do?
Yeah. Trying to read contour maps.
Yeah. Hey, friend. Oh, I guess not. Yeah. Ready? Close, soon. So this area we're walking into has always just been wild forest.
Okay.
Is that actually? Yeah. Well, you know, we get some firewood and stuff out of it. We'll get to a better vantage point up here.
Yeah, and this is very, very typical, like north-facing slope.
Yeah.
In Oregon.
You know, it's like we call this. It's really a pine oak savanna. So, and what's interesting is we did increment borer. It's like a T-shaped thing that you can hammer into the tree and corkscrew out.
You said increment borer. I hadn't heard it.
Yeah, because you look at the increments between the tree rings.
Okay, I just heard it was a tree borer, but yeah. So how are these?
So we were just in that field that used to be a hay field or livestock pasture, and there's another one up here. Yeah. And, you know, that looks like a pretty big tree to me. And I would guess, if I just had to guess, 100 years old, 120. But the reality is the landowners we bought this from bought it in 1955, and they fenced it over there, and all of a sudden animals couldn't be in here. And the animals were killing all the trees because I'm sure the old-timers just fenced the perimeter. You know, who was here before 1955? So all of these started after 1955, except for a few black oaks. Like that's like 200 or 300 years old. There's one there, because the old timers left those because the shade trees were useful, and they made nuts for their animals to eat. So when I first moved here, this was so thick of incense cedars, mostly dead, you couldn't even walk through it. Yeah. So we did thinning, and that's where all our first fence posts came from, was this little plot. Yeah. And actually a neighboring farm got all their fence posts here because there was just so much. Yeah. And then we did a controlled burn in the spring. And now you can see, you know, we got all these madrones coming up, oak seedlings, and incense cedar, and a lot of herbaceous vegetation in here.
All spontaneous. You're not coming back and
replanting. We didn't seed anything in here. We've got a little seasonal pond that's basically in this waterway. I think this is where the creek actually used to flow. I mean, look at this big hollow.
Yeah.
And then I've noticed this pattern a lot around here is that farmers would redirect small creeks to run down the middle of a field, and then they could block it up and flood, which made sense in a time before irrigation and sprinklers and all that. And there's no way I'm going to redirect the creek because the culvert that this goes through is way undersized. But in a flood, there's a lot of water moving through here.
Okay.
And that pond is full all winter into late into the spring. Okay. But then just soaks in because, as I shared, the soil's porous here. So we just perimeter fenced way over there in that strip of oaks along the road. So we need to just hang a few gates, and then we're going to be able to let the animals in here. And they'll unfortunately eat this unless we like enclose it. But, you know, so we may have to come in and do that if cage individual trees. Otherwise, the animals will just destroy it.
How long has it been since animals were in here and you did that controlled burn?
Never since I've been here, except deer.
Oh, you did a control. Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
How long was it since you did the controlled burn?
That was probably 15 years ago or something.
Okay.
And then we did another round of thinning just 2 years ago in here. And I think this spacing is awesome.
Yeah, dappled.
Yeah. And, you know, some, like madrone really is an understory tree and it produces fruit. That's a whole patch of poison oak, which actually is part of the understory ecology in here. It's going to be really interesting to watch the species composition change. And that's what I've been saying with my son. Like, we should come out here and establish some photo points, like pound in some rebar with a thing like, hey, year 1, year 2, especially. I know. I did with a buddy that was the head of the Watershed Council, who was also a permaculture guy, grazer, and then tragically he died in a car accident. So he had all the original photos when we first moved here, because we wanted to use our riparian restoration project as a case study for encouraging other landowners, other places, like, hey, you could do this. So, but this is cool because it's going to give us, you know, like another hectare of grazing land that's kind of marginal right now, but once you get nutrient cycling in here, I think it's going to be awesome. Yeah. And one thing I've noticed with the sheep is when you buy organic hay, there's always weeds in it. So all of a sudden things like clover begin popping up in here. Yeah. Even without planting it, just from them pooping. So, yeah, so this is a cool. And you can see here, this is an old irrigation ditch from when they used to flood irrigate that field we just walked through. And so it's been an access path. And this is one of the reasons I was reluctant to fence. As you can see, you know, we just put this fence up. We haven't even done the clips on here. But there is like a very riparian bench with all that horsetail. And you can see that's wet year round in there, and the tree growth. So there's going to all of a sudden be a really, like, our photo point should probably be along this fence line, because you're going to see outside the fence continues to be wild, and this is going to be more managed. But yeah, no, but again, the curving lines on nature and fence lines that are straight mean that I haven't reestablished my path. You can see it's all set up, but we were like, do we build a gate there, or just like the gate makes more sense over there? So anyhow, I'm gonna make like an artsy gate out of manzanita or something.
And when it's still flooding, does that irrigation channel?
Not so much, because it requires blocking up the creek to push water down there. Yeah. There are some natural areas where that happens, and you know, like we have 10 ponds here. That's one of them, so it's like kind of not really a pond. But I've seen so many things, like there's so much water that comes through here. There's a seasonal spring. Yeah. So I put in a culvert, and then with the tractor I was like, let's do a little soak away thing. Yeah. You know, it's not very, I just did it with the tractor, but I'm like, I want 100 of those all over the place.
Yeah, well, that's what we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
Was like decentralized water strategy.
Yeah, that we just walked through a little hitchhiker spot. So over here, I have this field where we used to do annual seed crops, and it's another one that's part of this larger design now too. So this whole side of the creek will be it's probably like 2 hectares total, maybe 3, if we go all the way up there. I have a few seed crops up here just because I planted those in the fall, and then, yeah, anyhow. Eventually we're going to move all this towards animals, and this has a series of, I think, 4 swales. I've started some trees up there, but I haven't really done a good job because we're so far away from the main farm right now. But we have a BLM road that comes through here, and you can see we fenced to here, and then there'll be a gate so the animals can come right up to here. And that's one thing, moving sheep, I found I'd tried in the past when this was cover crop to move them from there up to here, but they'd escape out to the road, or so you want to route them and funnel them. So some of that design, I think you have to be on a site for a decade or have somebody that knows that assist you with that kind of fencing design and thinking long term, years 0 through 5 and 5 to 10. And it'd be fun at some point, like with this, again, the documentation, you always wish you did it before. Like we have all these pictures that back when we took pictures like this and had to take the film to get developed of right when we moved here. And when we were building the swales, of pictures of the bulldozer, but we haven't translated them over to digital. So I'm looking forward to doing that project someday to show the evolution before and after.
I asked Ernst when I was at his farm in Brazil if he had photos from when first
Yeah.
started. He was like, yeah. There were photos, but the termites ate them all.
Oh shit.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we don't necessarily need to go in here. This is a totally different soil type altogether.
Okay.
When we tried digging test holes up there, 3-4 feet down, we hit just bedrock. But you look at that forest; those are big, tall trees. Like some of those, they're a meter across.
Yeah.
So
You find a way.
it's amazing because we can look at something and be like, "Oh, that's not good soil," but then look what it grows. Yeah.
Well, in New Zealand, there's these rocks called the Pouatakawa. It's
Yeah.
one of the classic New Zealand trees. They flower red during Christmas, and so
Oh,
they're
okay.
called the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
But they'll grow on just massive rock cliffs.
Yeah.
No soil. It's just rock, and they'll just dig their roots in and become these 1,000-year-old
Yeah,
things.
that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's the same here. So one thing you can see, we've got good access from the road, and I've got this tree house up here we're about to walk by. An idea that's been emerging is I have a teepee, and my son has one of those, we call them bell tents, as we're like, let's build a little bathhouse, outhouse, with a couple solar panels, on-demand propane hot water or solar hot water, and a way to charge your phone, and start a hip camp, glamping scene. That's just like a Hobbit zone, because there's parking here, and I don't really want to run that business, so I've been nudging my son, maybe you and your girlfriend want to do this over time, and it's another way to utilize the farm, because you can imagine stay in a hotel in Grants Pass or drive a half hour and have this experience, and in the morning you have tea with me or my son and a little walk, and I've even been thinking about it, Oregon now has legal psychedelic mushrooms, and that could be a little market, because wait till you see up here, it's hey, you and your buddies want to do this, you could stay in a treehouse, the teepee, have this whole experience, and then even if the animals are down there, and add more Dexter cattle or Scottish Highlander, and then it becomes this agro-tourism thing. And I have a neighbor, she's over by Ashland, Willow Witt Farm, and they have a variety of animals. They mostly do animals, but they have just these wall tents built on a platform, totally off grid. They get $200 a night, and they sell a lot of them. But part of it is the farm experience. It's just you can't access this in the normal world. And I think in a opportunity asset mapping, and that's one thing now that I've been a business owner for a bunch of years, I think a farm is a business, but it wasn't until I had employees and payroll and the whole online seed company thing. I'm I see so many opportunities for other businesses that could integrate with what we're doing, not detract any value at all. I mean, from the existing things that are happening, and just add. And then little things over here, I'm going to build a custom, probably 2 manzanita gates, and I don't know, in the shape of a heart or something, because I'm thinking the glamping thing and just the magicalness of,
Well, and it's part of a framework that I've been observing at a lot of different farms, and
Yeah.
kind of phase zero, before you do any of the, people are really enthusiastic about I want to do the Airbnb and retreats and accommodation
at the starting point.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I want to do this, but their farm is nothing.
Yeah.
So phase zero is just get the farm working, scale permanence, implement some like really cool agroforestry or whatever is appropriate for you.
Yeah.
And then phase one isn't then cool. Now we can do accommodation. Phase one is like cool, like little micro events, single like papers, just get people on the farm, listen to feedback, see what they're interested in, develop their skills. Phase two after that is deeper experiences. So
Exactly.
offering like, you know, maybe multi-day experiences.
Oh, totally.
Still not on site, but then phase three, cabins.
Yeah.
And then there's the depth to the farm,
Yeah.
the depth to your like facilitation experience,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have like, you know, phase three.
Totally.
ready to go.
Well, like I don't want to lead psychedelic journeys for people. I don't want to babysit tripping hippies. But like one of my best friends is a PhD psychotherapist who does this work professionally. So it'd be like through her gateway. So then we start a business collaborative because land stewardship is not her thing. And that's really, I realize that's my, you know, like a designer. I mean, that's what the permaculture nailed it. Like you created design that's a living, breathing thing. And, you know, and it's a conversation with the land. And until the land's supporting the land stewards, you have no business. The amount of people I've heard, and there's like a meme going around, like, it's like some AI generated image, which makes me want to barf when people do that, of like, do you ever get, it's totally like the Gen Z and millennials are doing this. Do you want to get together with 10 of your friends and buy land and start like a permaculture healing retreat center? And like, I mean, the amount of those that have failed, like I'm on a WhatsApp thread and I won't name names, and they're well-intentioned people and they're mostly doing Costa Rica or wherever. Anyhow, I'm just like, you know, you don't start learning how to play an instrument all of a sudden you're a virtuoso. Like you have to learn music, learn rhythm, learn harmony, and then eventually you get to fly out. You know, as Miles Davis, the jazz trumpet player, said when he was asked, how do you learn how to play jazz? He said, learn how to play blues in every key. Because blues, it's just got a predictable rhythm. And if you can do that in every key, you understand what then you can launch off from and take a piece from here and a piece from here. And I think a lot of people in their enthusiasm, like to learn like we've done multiple waves of thinning and burning through here. And like, I know this place so intimately. I've gone for so many walks here over 25 years. And when my kids are little, it was like every day, get them in the backpack or go explore here. And so now we're finally ready, like, you know, there's a lot of forests like this around here. It would be totally fine if we did some building and developing and, you know, chipping, shredding, and turn this into a more human interface. And I've even thought when we built this, and I was up on the platform, and I looked down, I was like, I've been thinking of permaculture completely wrong this whole time. I was thinking of you start with an empty field and you plant it. And being up there showed me, and we haven't done this vision because I was so busy with the others, but I was like, what if this area, let's say it's a hectare, and you figured out the fencing and stuff, and at the time, these feather earrings and jewelry, like peacocks and pheasants, were popular in the festival world. I was like, where are those coming from? And at the time, there was a peacock that was just living wild nearby. I was like, what if you had, and it was looking down, I was like, medicinal herbs, weird birds like pheasants, peacocks, quail, goats, and you're doing, those are your yields are like oak leaf wine, the new leaves. You got to add sugar or honey. Is the best herbal wine I've ever tried. I brought, you know, gallon jugs to parties and people are like, is there any more of that? Whereas other ones like Hawthorne or people are like, oh, I tried that. Nice. Good job. You know, like they just wanted a sip. So, you know, there's so many forest products that you could pull out of here. Basketry, you know, just onward and onward. And that's a cool vision that is also making the land more fire resilient because humans are integrating into the landscape instead of segregating. And so it's funny to come through and thin just for the fear. You'll see some burn piles that we haven't done yet, just to make it less fire prone rather than like, oh no, we're utilizing, you know, like here, these are violets. We've got a couple species of violets. This is strawberry, wild strawberry. So, you know, the permaculture designer, that's a native iris there. Would come in and look at this. Here's another thing. This is in the carrot parsley family, and if you eat these, it's called sweet Sicily. You can try these seeds. They're kind of like fennel. You know, like just right there, they're like, if you got creative, you're like, boom, 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 and you turn this into this like epic integrated food forest that's recognizing the forest that's already there as a key thing. So, yeah.
It's just attuning your eyes to that kind of stuff. Because if you only think of food as like row crops of cabbages, apples, and pears,
Yeah.
you see no harvest.
Like imagine coming in here and putting some of those persimmons
Yeah.
or some of those walnuts in the open areas or mulberries. And then also, instead of raising chickens for meat, you just hunt the pigeons, the band-tailed pigeons that are like half a kilo. You know, that's a meal.
Yeah.
And there's tons of them. If you have like a mulberry tree or something, there's so many of them. And yeah, so maybe we'll evolve to that point. But one of my mentors, Tom Ward, he wrote a big fat book called Social Forestry, and that was his like manifesto. He's in his 70s. He's like, the permaculture of the future is more like humans living in the forest, and then we're not afraid of forest fires. It's like we're there and we're making charcoal instead of propane.
And that activity also reduces the risk of
Totally.
fires.
Yeah, I mean he'll do a storytelling thing, and I remember one year, and he just goes for it, and he's like describing this landscape 100 years from now,
Okay.
and he's talking in the first person like, I went out and started a charcoal fire in the burner for the hot air balloon that's made from the hides of goats, because we realized that it wasn't worth maintaining the road system because of all the erosion and the toxic chemicals of asphalt. And the landscape is so rugged and hilly here that it's easier to go up, over. And so in my wicker basket hot air balloon, and just riffing of like, well, what if we chose to go that way? Kind of like, there's steampunk was kind of a reaction to, or cyberpunk, like those are two paths. And there's a new term I'm hearing people bandy about of solar punk.
Yeah.
And
Forest punk.
yeah, which is, all like that hot air balloon, that may sound fanciful, but like that's way easier than a nuclear reactor.
Well, we used to have airships. I don't know where that technology went.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see in here some burn piles and, nudging the ecosystem in one way. And we had a big snow, unfortunately. You can see this oak that dropped, and a couple of our legacy black oaks, like this one here, you can see broke off. Yeah, that's always sad when that happens. But
that's also succession, right?
yeah. Well, and you can see like this big open area. Here's prime candidate for, like I was talking, putting some nut trees in here. I mean, there's things emerging naturally, which are great. Like this rose. This here, what is this? This is an apple. Wow, you never even noticed this. That's a maple. But there's an apple in here. See right next to it?
Yeah, I do see that. Yeah.
I didn't even notice it here because there was this huge oak that was growing right here.
Yeah.
So there, like prune. Look at it; it's already happening.
And it's gonna be stoked for all that sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, part of what I have all these ideas, but my son has been working over here doing the fencing. You can see the top of that one field over there. That's just fallow right now. And I probably won't even irrigate it this year and just kind of wait to do it. But allow him to be like, there's a lot of room to work in up here. This is,
fun up here.
yeah. And he has been, and then he can direct his brother around. His brother's, big and strong enough to help. Working in the woods is you need to be strong. So now we're in what I would call like a healthy riparian forest. So you can contrast this with down there where we were planting those pine trees at the start of our walk, and just be like, this is where that's going.
Yeah.
And so alder and this plant in the creek there, that's a ginseng relative called California spikenard. You can see one flowering.
Yep.
Aurelia californicum.
Beautiful clear water.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, and I've been kind of nudging. This is one of my areas. I love Japanese gardens. So, like, I actually, when this fell, I used to come along. And it used to cascade like a waterfall over it. So I've got to come the end of the farming season this year. I'll get back up here, and I've been tweaking it and making it like...
It's your paper dam analogs, right?
Yeah.
The leaky weirs, it's
Totally.
all of that.
Yeah, and like the creek level's down a little bit, but like... I put all those rocks in there, and there's actually plastic under there because the water was cascading over this root wad.
For all that too, huh?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and just nudging, because I think that's one part of any good system is the inspiration. That come up here and just be like, wow, look what nature does.
The property I was at recently in California, the actual channel itself was probably like 8 meters
Oh, down cutting and stuff.
And then there were similar stuff like this,
Yeah.
but even still, there was like 6-meter tall ones.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the torrential like flash flooding that happens there.
Exactly.
and towers.
Yeah, because this, when we get a big flow, it is moving.
Yeah.
Like, there's stretches you could take a kayak down. Like, there's.
On farm.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a part of the ridge over there. It's about, how high is that? It was like 1,800 meters, 1,900 meters. It's like, then there's springs that form, but that's one of the things of like any time designing it, I've learned of like look at the topo map or whatever app you use and calculate, like create a polygon to determine how many acre watershed.
Yeah.
And so like I would never build a pond in this channel because there's just so much, it will just fail.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I bet the runoff coefficient isn't actually so bad here.
Yeah.
How much of it is in forestry, but we're looking at these California watersheds, and it's just compacted, bare, no vegetation.
Yeah.
And like, I think there was one part of the catchment that was like in development as well. So half the catchment coming through this one culvert, creating all this erosion, was new houses, no vegetation.
Well, and that's our thing. Culverts like focus it. It's like a like a hydraulic mining hose.
Like
Yeah. I know. So yeah, just more. And what's kind of interesting up here? Look at these big white oaks there. They're like 400 or 500 years old, and so you can see those go back to indigenous land use management where they were burning here. There's about 5 or 6 of them up in this area, and we've thinned around them. There were firs growing right up through it, and like the ancient land stewards are still like the result of their management practices are still here. And, we tend to look at an Oregon forest of all these Doug fir things, but this is 60 years old and great building materials.
Toothpick.
Yeah. But, like cut these down and like use them for building, whether you peel it or mill it or whatever. But those big white oaks, those are irreplaceable.
Can we go to the bottom of that?
Yeah, there's a trail over there. Yeah, and so it's been really cool. My boys working in the woods a lot because they have a little firewood side hustle, and there's these grants for fuels reduction thinning, and so they're really learning their trees and noticing stuff.
And that's the one we were speaking to yesterday mentioned how he's so different from a lot of his peers, and I imagine most of his peers aren't doing that kind of stuff.
No, he has one buddy that works on a commercial logging operation, like clear cutting, and they've compared notes, and there's a lot of overlap. Chainsaw is a chainsaw, but yeah, this zone is up here. This zone, I'm like, besides thinning, we're not really going to do much here. This is part of the 50-year vision or something. Yeah, isn't this nice? I love the diversity of our forests here. And it's interesting here, like you look, I'm just noticing because I haven't stood here for a while, look at these firs are all dying. Which, just ecological succession is fascinating to me.
Yeah, there was a moment in time where I was doing work for the National Park Service.
Oh, okay.
Doing surveying for white bark pine and
high up.
some other species, and we're in Crater Lake and Lappin.
Yeah.
So bouncing between there, doing weeks of just like absolute bush whacking and getting out there measuring the trees.
I know my younger son at one point recommended like doing AmeriCorps. Because when I've been out hiking and backpacking, I've run into groups of young people building trails, and I'm like, that would be a fun thing. I remember I was in a wilderness area, and they had a crosscut saw, cutting down, because you can't use motorized things in the wilderness. So there's all these young people, and they're out there camping, and I was like, that would be such a cool experience.
That's what kids need.
Yeah. So this area is cool. It's just there's so much moisture. Like these are alders that fell, and they grow oyster mushrooms, and it just decomposes them so fast. And then turkey tails, and so yeah, I've been an avid mushroom forager for years, and it's.
Well, and obviously it was a place ripe with that, given all the damage that lived up the road.
Yeah, but we have a lot of just native fungi here, and. It's cool. So we're at the top of my land is right up here, and then it's BLM land. And you can see more of this ginseng relative. And what a different ecology that just over there, the drier forest. And you guys came back. This bridge is a little rickety.
Yeah.
Go on. Do your thing.
Yeah, because we're on the northern slopes right here.
Yeah.
So we're not getting blasted by that really intense sun, and you're losing quite a bit of that sun in winter.
Exactly. I know it's dark in winter, but you know we're in a much better position for water. You know.
How would your strategies change should you have been on the south-facing slopes?
You know, I know some folks who have a farm over there.
Yeah.
And everything's like 2 to 3 weeks earlier. Things like irises blooming and stuff.
Yeah.
So that part's an advantage. I probably, you know, it's hard to say, you know. Like, but that farm is interesting. They were produce, they did some seed, and now they're doing all native plants on seed contract.
Yeah.
And so you can see how, you know, they're in a really hot, dry, south-facing slope.
Yeah, that'd be tough for like.
And their water resources are very limited. One thing here that was interesting is when we just walked by that little pipe that was sticking up was an air relief valve.
Okay.
It has like a plastic ball that floats in there. Yeah. When I first moved here, the gravity water line started there, and they would run the ditch from the creek and just kind of flood. And then it was a 2-inch pipe down from there. When we moved here, the creek channel where the ditch went into it way up there, the creek channel had dropped so much that in order to get the ditch to flow, it would have been so much digging. So I just piped it all the way. But then there were all these big conifers that had grown accustomed to 100 years of flood irrigation. Yeah. And then they died. And then we had a big windstorm maybe 20 years ago, and it knocked like half of them over. And you can kind of even still see the remnants of that, like these big, tall, dead trees, like that pine survived. So it was in a swath through here because basically that ditch ran down through here. And so you can see there aren't many tall trees in here, but a lot of regrowth.
Yeah, interesting.
Because, you know, like we were just in that very riparian forest, but this is a more accurate, you kind of mixed hardwood coniferous forest. And this is post-thinning. We've come in and thinned it out because... Yeah, and so we've been burning and stuff. So here, I'm just kind of watching it evolve. You know, there's a lot of maple seedlings, but there's like way too many for them to all thrive. I'm just letting it do its thing. But this was an area where there were a bunch of big dead conifers about that size. And we actually brought a self-loading log truck in here and a backhoe. And my buddy that helps run the Watershed Council, they wanted long logs with the root wad to construct things in the stream downstream for salmon habitat, like beaver ponds. But they needed the root wad because they'd go in with an excavator and like plant that root wad. And they would engineer them like this so that, you know, with the creek water going like that, so it would create a scour pool. And those deep pools are important.
Engineer it like this, as in like which part is...
So the root wad would be over here on the bank, like buried in, and then the log, or even 4... And then there would be a sediment catch from all the roads higher in the watershed. There's a lot of sand that moves here, and that chokes out the salmon spawning gravel. Yeah. But then the hydraulic action of this would scour it out and loosen up new gravel and keep moving that sand further out of the system. Yeah. So we donated a bunch here, so we'd created this like, you know, kind of impact zone. Yeah. And so then I brought a bulldozer in and built this pond, which I haven't filled. It's got a pipe in it that is connected to my buried irrigation system. And the plan was that if I needed to, someday I'll do this, put a solar panel and little DC pump down at my big pond, and then be able to pump up here just when the sun's shining, no batteries. And then this would be enough water for 1 day's of irrigation gravity. And so, because we're way higher here than down low.
Yeah, well above 8 meters.
So I haven't implemented it, but it's like when you have a machine on site,
make use of it.
It doesn't take that long to build a little pond like this. And in the meantime, I'm sure the native frogs and wildlife is happy. Yeah. But it's interesting. Normally, I've watched, you know, you can see the water levels drop fast, like where And I could fill this. I can just open a valve and then it's the creek water going backwards through the pipe.
Okay.
So maybe I'll try doing that. But I'm looking forward to building more ponds like this in the forest.
Yeah.
And I just see that it's cool. And I mean, for wildlife, it's crucial. And then for fire safety, like I have a neighbor, one of the things he does is he gets a bunch of 55-gallon drums and puts them out on his forest roads. And they fill, we get, 40 inches of rain here, or whatever that is in millimeters. And, sure, they're mosquito breeding things. But if you had a little fire, you at least could bucket water out. And I was like, that's smart. But I'd rather barrels rot and break and stuff have ponds like that.
Yeah, ponds are just like,
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see one of the blessings here is that we have great like forest access roads, and my boys doing firewood, they love it, and all these madrones is future firewood. That's the best firewood
They're
here.
gorgeous as well.
Yeah, and they produce all these berries, so they really are this like multifunctional tree, and you can see a lot of younger black oaks through here. The ones with the dark moss on them are all making acorns. So in the thinning, our strategy is moving it towards like sugar pine, ponderosa pine, madrone, black oak. And here's a live oak. They're less common. But thinking of plants that make food, and I always think like the native forest teaches us a lot about what we should be doing. This is Ceanothus. It's in the Rhamnaceae plant family.
Okay.
So it's in the same plant family as sea buckthorn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so fixes nitrogen. Yeah, we have 3 different species around here. California wild lilac. It's already done flowering. Now it's making seed pods.
Does the buckthorn do okay out here? Or it's too.
I haven't had very much luck. I've just planted some more.
Yeah.
I just have a handful in that food forest we looked at. Okay. But they just kind of up and die. I don't, it's hard to know all the pests and disease for every crop you're growing. So it's like, yeah, and it's not like sea buckthorn berries are all that great to where.
Well, unless they're like absolutely thriving through your area.
Yeah.
Then it's worth it.
So. Yeah, it's cool walking through here after my son's thinned and just, I can see where it's going to go, another 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. And yeah, it's just, yeah, and then things like this, this is a sugar pine. They're a short needle pine, and they're the ones that make the big cones, biggest cones and longest cones in the world. And all through the Sierras, this is one of the primary pines. And we have a bunch over there that they get big. But they're making pine nuts. So I'm like, whenever I see that, like natural reproduction, so eventually we'll cut down these other conifers here and be like, that's what we want. Yeah. And, yeah.
Yeah, but it's part of like just learning all of that.
Totally. Well, and it's like, if I had a bigger team, pick this up, mulch around there, cut the other ones down. Boom. You've just accelerated the growth of that tree a lot by thinning, and that's, I see all these people into biochar, and I'm like, that's cute. Like that you're putting that much effort into it. We just burn stuff, and then when I have the tractor nearby, we scoop it up, and then I mix it in the compost. Or even if I was driving through with the tractor, I could just scoop that up and dump it over there. And just what are the little tweaks that you can accelerate the development of the species composition that you want? And
should have had a team of 20 sons.
I know. At one point, we had 8 people living and working here.
Yeah.
And man, we could get a lot of stuff done. But it's also, there's a level of chaos. Like, who didn't replace the propane tank? Yeah. Who didn't, who left that gate open? It felt like I had 8 kids.
I know this family in New Zealand, and for the last like 20 years,
yeah,
they've had kids on the dot every 24 months.
Oh, God.
So they've got a 20-year-old, they've got an 18, 16,
yeah,
15, 12, 10, all the way down to 2 years old. It's like a circus.
The event I'm going to in Idaho soon, the Modern Homesteading Conference, one of the other keynotes there, they have a farm ranch in Montana, and they have 10 kids, the same age as me. And part of me is envious because I'm like, that must just be awesome. Like you're at 4. When they were young, must have been chaos. And then I think about like, well, you'd need like a cargo van to go anywhere together, like with a 15-passenger thing. And you're just a bit like asynchronous with the rest of the culture.
How do you mean?
So like I have this little emerging theory that like our reality is kind of like a bicycle wheel, by analogy. So if you live at the hub and you live in the suburbs or a city or an apartment and you eat at the normal places, it spins real nice. There isn't a lot of friction or asynchronicity to it. But you move that hub a little bit to the outside. Let's say you're a vegetarian or you're a person of color in a predominantly white neighborhood or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're like, you run into, and then if you're like, there was this guy that used to live around here, Brother Eli, and he hadn't touched money in like 25 years. He made all his own clothes out of hemp stalks that he wove, and he wore these robes. He had his own made-up branch of Christianity, and he only accepted what was given freely. So he would just walk down the road, people would pick him up, hitchhiking, he'd come help him in the garden, and they'd give him like a beet, and he would eat like each leaf, chew it like 50 times. But I'm like, Brother Eli was a hub that was out here, like, and you could do that if you want as a social experiment, but I don't think you're going to get many converts to your thing. So I think, like, I had a good friend for years, and she's like, if for anything to advance in our culture, it needs to be fun, sexy, and useful. Or like one of those. Ideally all three. And, we are, like, procreation is a big part of our hardwired in biology. So you look at marketing is that, and fun, dopamine, and useful, just the practicality of life. And, so that's what I think I love about farming, because it is all those things. But you can't be one of these disgruntled, burnout farmers. That's...
Yeah, but if you have no succession plan because you had no kids,
yeah.
it would be easy to be that way.
Yeah, so this area, sheep have access to this, you'll see in a second.
Yeah,
but it's been interesting watching this. At first, when I started, the whole forest floor looked like this. Just sticks and pine needles and stuff, and just the animals in here. It's mostly native grasses that have come in. There's one called hedgehog dogtail, but some clovers, and we're going into the dry season, so this hasn't. The last time it rained was a while ago, and so I know that's possible. And then on the other side of the fence here, this is connected to a long paddock, or from here you can kind of see down to the inner farm core. There's a greenhouse, and I got a yurt down there. So the animals can move up through here. So you can see not much growing.
Yeah, very little understory.
And it was that way when we started. And I'm noticing lower down grasses and other things starting to come in. But it's really hard to get the animals up in here. Like when we had goats, one thing I'd find is we would do a lot of work with peeled poles and stuff. So when I had interns, we'd go work in the woods with the goats, and they'd stay around. And you can see like this madrone right there. Look how they almost girdled it. See all the bark's eaten. And like animals can do work for you, but you have to get them there. And so really the only time they're up here is when I'm moving them into this area through that gate up there, that green gate. And they know the path, but they'll only follow me. They won't go up here because I think it doesn't feel safe for them, because we have bears and mountain lions here.
Okay.
So that's, as we expand our herd, we're going to get another livestock guardian dog and raise them from a puppy with the herd, so they just bond. And I've even thought in getting like 2 donkeys.
Nice.
And which factors into the agritourism thing, because right now donkeys are trendy on
Of course.
all the things.
You got to get a wedding donkey.
Yeah.
And then you got the kayak here.
Yeah. So this, for years I would get a truckload of sand every year and put it here, and this was like the kid. You can still see some detritus from all that. And this was the neighborhood swimming hole. But what's interesting is there's 2 men that I'd been doing men's retreats with that I met 16 years ago or so. And I eventually convinced that there was a 160-acre property kitty corner to us that was for sale, former Tibetan Buddhist retreat center. So I convinced them to move up here with their families and buy that. So now that's like, it's taking longer to turn that into what we want, but that's like, basically we want to do what we've done here, but just on a bigger scale over there. But there's a 1-acre pond over there. So my canoe is over there. I have a kayak over there, because that's now the community swimming hole, which is kind of nice, because when my kids are younger, I would hear people up here, and I would go find my kids, like, go up there, your friends are there. Yeah. And this was like the spot. And I used to have a dock. You can see it over there. And the dock was like, they all learned to jump and swim, and then eventually it fell apart. But now I kind of appreciate that it's quiet up here, and not like a big party all the time. Yeah. And we actually had a men's circle of fire last night up here.
Oh, cool.
So you can see our... so this, right now it's being filled from the creek over there. If I obviously it's filling with rain. So it's 17 feet deep. So almost 6 meters or something. Is about 1 million gallons. My water level's down just a hair, it looks like. I can overflow it through that little, we didn't walk that way, but there's a little ditch that wraps around. I don't know if you can make it out. No, it's more like a intentional flood. The spillway is over there. See that wide gap?
Yeah.
But we're on a ridge. So you can see a horseshoe-shaped pond on the ridge. There's not much runoff here. So, I've just got a 1-inch pipe for filling it, and I have it up for just some aeration. But that big wide gap, then there's a little ditch that takes it back to the creek. And then over here, I have a slide gate, and I need to repair because it's falling apart, so that the water level, if it's here, it's going out that way. If I pull the slide gate, then the water's trickling through here. So like April, May here, when we're not irrigating, I'm just constantly hydrating this slowly. And so that overflow ditch kind of goes through that gate, and then most of our orchard here is planted on these keyline canals that have a 1-foot drop for a 100-foot run. So gently moving. There's another one over here. And this, we're looking north, so we're part of the Applegate watershed, and that farthest ridge, the Applegate River, is running this way towards Grants Pass, where it goes into the road. But I have a 4-inch valve there, and then that keyline canal drops each way, going like that. So then it goes here, zigzags down through here. This used to be annuals, and I've been establishing trees in there as another block, because it's really hard to flood irrigate annuals on our slope. But you can flood irrigate trees, but having goats all these years, they trashed a bunch of my protection fences. So we're doing a bit of a refresh here. That's what all those pallets are, and get a better spacing in there on those trees. And probably actually I want to plant some cider varieties like bitter sharps for blending for higher quality ciders. Yeah.
Okay, how much planning was involved in terms of like sizing the dam, setting it up?
It was interesting when we did the test hole here. When we did the original advanced design course, we dug I think 2 or 3 across this area, because we were like, okay, this is the top. You can see native forest there. From here down was just open all the way down to our parking lot. So we were like, well, we want to build the largest water source at the top. But we got down about 3-4 feet in the backhoe, and it was a good 80 horsepower diesel backhoe with extend-a-hoe, was scraping the teeth against bedrock. And so we're like, damn. So then we began to sketch out an idea of a network of small ponds, that are maybe 20 meters across or something, and maybe 3 meters deep, zigzagging down through. But at the time we were farming annuals, so long straight rows for the tractor made the most sense. And then we did this, when we were actually building the pond, we had a 110 horsepower excavator, 27-foot reach. And the guy's like, oh, this isn't bedrock, this is just a rock shelf. You want me to get under it? And so you can see the kind of rocks that he was pulling out.
Oh, wow.
And I wish I would have saved them all, because now I'm aware that a boulder like this is actually really valuable for landscaping and stuff, because we buried a whole bunch of them in the toe of the dam.
Okay.
Just so we were like, there were all these, it looked like a mess, Like we literally, so when we were building this, we did that advanced design course, which was a great assessment, and the design teams came up with theoretical designs. We did all kind of surveying, plotting transit lines, all that stuff. And so, but we can only go off of the test holes, so we knew we had the soil here to build ponds, but we were like, it was too rocky. So when they were constructing it, they were like, well, how deep do you want us to go? And the other guy driving the bulldozer was like, you got really good material. We were originally going to do 2-to-1 slopes is what's advised and all the keyline stuff. And they're like, oh, no. We built a bunch of ponds, because they're all older machine guys. And you can go 1-to-1 here. So you can see we've got about a 45% slope here, maybe a little more shallow on the outside. Yeah. And so there's we took the best clay and made a key trench with the dozer, like a meter down in, and then the excavator had a little pier he'd made for himself and was finding the best clay, because they can see the teeth, and it's like, is there a sheen?
Yeah.
Or this is no good. So he would pick, the good clay in here, and the dozer was spreading it, and then we had a vibrating roller. They didn't have a muffler. It was so loud. Building this, and there was a bit of doing to build all this.
With the operators, what are they looking at to determine whether it can be like a 2-to-1 or if it can get away with a 1-to-1?
I think it was just the compaction of the clay. Like they had me running sprinklers, and like it'll pack better if it's a little wet. Yeah. And this is one of these like vibrating rollers. We weren't using a sheep's foot because they didn't have one. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was like the first major pond I'd built. We built a smaller duck one down there a year before. And then at the same time, we did all the keyline canals and then another pond down here that's, maybe about 20 meters across and about 3 meters deep. And that one's mainly like wildlife, duck, just water storage. We didn't even put a pipe through it. Yeah. So, up here, I'm totally happy with how this turned out. This is
beautiful dragonfly.
I know, isn't that cool?
How I mean, in terms of the impact that it's had on what it's allowed you to get away with and do.
Yeah, so this pipe here, so we got gravity flow in a 2-inch pipe, and we have a water right for that, and we can run about 10 sprinklers off the pressure in that. And that works well for us. Then we're keeping the pond full just because this pond is multi-purpose. There's fish in here, swimming, wildfire protection. But then we have, so it's about, I'm trying to think, the pipe was on the original grade. And so our dam height is about a little more than 3 meters above the original grade. And that's the highest you can go here without bringing in engineers to get signed off on it. So we have about 4 meters of the water we can use through flooding. And so from down here, this is a 4-inch steel pipe. We can flood from here, but it goes into a 2-inch line into our buried irrigation system, because that's the one thing of flooding. Let's say this was all flood irrigated down from here, so we pretty much have enough water here. It's 2.5 acre feet. This is like how people do it. So you can think if this is about 2.5 acres and our dry season is however many weeks, we can water 1 inch a week for the whole dry season. Okay. We've never needed to use that much water, but I can also put it in the buried irrigation system and then use the aluminum pipe, because if we flood, like the top gets overwatered before you ever get water to the bottom. So we can use our buried one to like run it down, and then the big 2-inch aluminum pipe we can direct water. I'm still using drip tape and sprinklers and some flood, and this is, I think, more the long-term system. And it's a variety of approaches. You can see a hose here, like to water this and keep it green. It's like some of it's seepage, but also keeping it green for sheep is helpful.
And this will stay green for another month?
Oh, no, I'll keep it green all summer. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Because it's also, I call it the green core. For wildfire, of like this, if this all stays green, it's really unlikely a wildfire would destroy this. Maybe it'd burn over the top of us. I've heard wild stories of fire spars and things like that. But I've lived here 30 years. We've never had a significant wildfire in Williams.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So our local fire, response has been great. And I only see us getting more organized, just be on it. And maybe someday we'll do like what they do in Australia, where they buried all the power lines. Because that's how a lot of wildfires are starting now, is hot, dry winds, knock over power lines, and
sparks.
Yeah, totally.
And in terms of like local community-based forest management, what does that look like? Are a lot of properties around here quite fire-wise?
Yeah. And over by Ashland, there's an organization called Lomakatsi some friends started. And so they've really brought forth this idea of fire restoration forestry. And they're now at the point where they work with independent loggers, and they're like filling log trucks for biomass and stuff. Because there's so many forests, a fire would have come through and taken out all these Doug firs when they were little, but now they're, good size. And then the first community burn network in Oregon started in the Applegate, just over this ridge. A buddy was the point guy on that. So that is like, okay, let's say we want to do a controlled burn on our almost, 10 hectares of forest here. That's outside of the scope of what me and my boys can do, but it would be working with local, the Oregon Department of Forestry, the local fire departments, get a water truck here, and be able to burn, a big chunk of land. And so that's starting to happen around.
Yeah, just to
With,
reduce fuel load.
exactly.
Let that go for another couple
Yeah.
decades.
And then those, when it's done safely with like moisture meters and, watching the weather and the wind and letting people know, and the roadside signs saying controlled burn in practice, versus just, I think that's something that needs to happen on a community level rather than the independent landowner.
Yeah.
Again, not like your average person doesn't have a water truck.
Yeah.
Or a dozer to cut a fire line, that kind of stuff. So I'm intrigued by that. As I used to be more active in that kind of thing, but now I'm like, okay, I'm active in this area of agriculture because that's really my area of expertise. And then I'm like on a board that funds community education around that kind of thing for our neighborhood of like, no, don't complain about smoke. Like, we can either burn on our terms or nature's terms. And nature wants to do it when it's 40 degrees centigrade in the middle of summer and 100 spots at once, from lightning. And that is scary, and because we suppressed fire for so long, there's just so much cleanup. And the fire return interval, like we're looking at south slopes over there, would be 30 to 40 years. Lightning would hit the ridge, it would burn down, but there wouldn't be much fuel loading because it had burned 30 years before. On this slope, it's probably more like 50 to 100 years. And I have seen lightning hit the ridge up there that's high, and we've watched it. We could see flames, but it goes out because it's old growth. And it's already naturally resilient. It hasn't been logged, but really to blame is the logging. The industrial forestry has created these even age stands and forests that dry out, and so but it's an all emergent thing. Like I've been watching these big leaf maples here, and look how the foliage just doesn't look that good. And here we are at the beginning of summer. I'm like, are those going to die? Where it's a native tree species. So like Southern Oregon is an interesting thing because we're at the southern extent of the like Cascadia Northwest ecology, and the northern extent of like over there is like the California chaparral kind of ecology. So we have that overlap. And that's why I think we do need, to be prepared. Like, are we going hotter or drier? It could also be cooler and wetter. We don't know. If the AMOC shuts down, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current of the whole process of why you can go swimming in the ocean in Norway and you try and go swimming in the ocean here and it's freezing. And that's because that whole, like, the conveyor belt they also call it the thermohaline conveyor belt. So it's like on the surface of the ocean, but it's also this big overturning barrel. And all the melt from Greenland, they're saying it's shutting down. And if that shuts down, like London is the same latitude as Anchorage, Alaska. And so the leading people that understand this, like the Woods Hole Atmospheric Oceanographic Institute, are like, we could see uninhabitable New England and Ireland, Scotland, Scandinavia in our lifetime. Not hot. And that's the tricky thing, is people don't understand. They're like, no, we're at the peak of hot. Although years ago, what was it, 75 million years ago, we can look at Azolla, if we haven't talked about it yet, my favorite plant by a mile. 75 million years ago, atmospheric CO2 levels were 5 to 7 times what they are now. And you had cinnamon trees growing at the North Pole. So all these like climate alarmists that are like, we've never had this many parts per minute. I'm like, 5 to 7 times. Like, it was tropical, the entire planet. And then if you go back 500 million years ago, the whole planet was a snowball. And there were no clouds because of the albedo effect, and the only life was hugging around like undersea volcanic vents, and then all of a sudden volcanism melted a bunch of that. So this planet, like, those are the goalposts, and that we can be anywhere in between it. And the Holocene and human civilization, we just happen to be in this little sweet spot.
Super lucky.
Yeah, totally. And we're going to watch people, I think, mass migration out of places like Phoenix, Arizona.
Out.
Yeah, North Africa. When it hits 50 degrees centigrade, you can't live. No amount of air conditioning. So that's permaculture really should be looking long term. Like, what's the 100-year plan? There's a great book. What's it called? This woman, she's a history and sociology professor at Harvard, or at least when she wrote it, and it was a little pamphlet. I can find it, just like a little 60-pager, and it was a conference of scientists happening in China 300 years from now of why during the 21st century we saw all the warning signs going off, but we didn't do anything about it.
Kept buying coastal properties.
And China, so in that theoretical example, China being communist was like, no, you have to move The train is leaving on this date. We've already built you a new house, a new job, a whole thing inland because sea level rise is going to render all of this uninhabitable. And this is a 50-year project, and China thought ahead and designed it, and the West didn't, and it fell into ruins. It's a fascinating thought experiment. That's, I think when you put yourself that far out, you can imagine like, oh wow, what if we could redesign like a better human settlement? So like seeing these maples, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I planted some pines here, so that if those die, other maple seedlings will come up because they make a gazillion seeds, and maybe it's just those are west facing, so they've been dealing with all this like hot sun for years, and maybe the work we did here disturbed something of all the earthworks. It's not all good,
Yeah.
So. Yeah, we'll walk down now. Let's see. More hazelnuts in here. But these ones you can see we graze underneath, so it's like easier. But also I think sometimes the grazing, it's hard to know. Like look at that one compared to this one. Compared to the one on the other side of the fence that never has animals around it.
Right.
So I'm still learning. And again, the problem with the blackberries. In here.
The ones that aren't getting grazed, they got the blackberry. The ones that are getting grazed.
But among the pond visitors, this is the favorite blackberry thing because it gets flood irrigation water, so these get huge.
Yes.
Yeah. So down in here is a similar pattern of these little pocket fields in between, slightly off contour. Keyline canals is the best word that we've come up with.
Yeah. And your canal is here just between.
And then because of that created the scaffolding, you can see like that arc.
Yeah.
So that's dropping ever so slightly. Oh, I'm sorry, it's going this way.
Yeah.
My tractor tillage is, in essence, contour farming. And when I have flood irrigated, I've opened that, and you can watch it. And because what I do is I'll till, and then I'll just drive with the tractor to kind of make beds, just using the tire tracks. And the water will just follow down that. So I was like, oh, if it really got dicey ever, and we, didn't have the well or all this, we'd have 24 people here. And when it came time to water, you're like, okay, go open the thing. It was shovels. Like old school acequia style, which is really, acequia is a Arabic word.
Oh, for dry.
Yeah, so if you get down to the desert southwest, all of that pattern, that landscape pattern, is actually from the Moorish influence that influenced the Spaniards. And the Sephardic Jews that were like hopped on the ships because of the Spanish Inquisition. They didn't want to convert to Christianity. And so that's why there's like a lot of Sephardic Jews in New Mexico. And acequia is that pattern, from ancient Moorish, North African. Yeah. How do you farm with very little water? Yeah. So I know we'd be able to do that. Oh, look at you, handsome. That's so funny. He hasn't done this in years. So yeah, seed crops here.
Slightly off contour.
Yeah, and so we're using drip irrigation to be efficient because we usually lose our water rights. It's usually around August 1st. I feel like this year it's going to be early. Not because the water isn't in the creek. It works on seniority. So when the people at the bottom of the system with 1858 water rights start complaining, they shut us off up top. And, the first people that homesteaded here, my guess it was like late 1800s. So technically they should have water rights from back then, but basically we didn't have like government reaching into this area until 1937 when they paved the main road. Highway 238, and that's also when they brought power in. So then they went to all the farmers like, hey, if you haven't registered your water rights with the state, you got to do it now. So we have 1937 water rights because basically whoever was up here, like we're at the edge, was like, screw you. Like you can imagine how pirate people were back then. So unfortunately, we don't have very old water rights, and it's all in seniority. But I noticed they just tend to cut it back to like 1910. Or 1900 or something. We'll just get a little card. So, at that point we switched from the gravity flow, because we're technically not allowed to take any water out of the creek at that point.
Right. Putting it in the pond is okay? Or
not even that. Okay. Which I'm like, for fire there should be there should be special allowances. Anyhow, the water law is so screwed up. And technically they say we're supposed to drain all the ponds within 10 days of that. And I'm like, that makes zero sense. Yeah, I'm just going to be defiant of that. Because we want the water storage we have a pond, it's about that same size over there at the top of another like 2-hectare pasture. You want that for fire. So a helicopter bucket can dip out of it. So then we shift to a combination between our well and gravity flow from the ponds. So these are just tiny right now. This is a early moonbeam watermelon. It's like an open pollinated variety. A buddy of mine bred 40 years ago. Kind of a small icebox yellow watermelon. Tomatoes for seed. This used to be seed crops, but I segued it over to perennials, and someday I'll put this in perennials because it would be easy just to flood this top tier to this point, and then this catches the runoff.
Yeah, you can feel it's really wet.
Well, I have some runoff right now. I need to go turn off some drip over here. And that's the cool thing about all these systems is it like catches water when it's raining, so it's like passive.
Yeah.
Like I imagine if I just stopped doing anything, most of these trees would survive just based on the water catchments. You know, they would produce smaller apples for sure, but
These apples do look great.
yeah. And let me just turn this off right here. Yeah, and then our pattern here is we've tended to alternate like a main crop tree. Here it must have died and I planted something new. I think I put a wild rose in there, like a rugosa rose. I don't know if you guys use these. They make these like fat rose hips and easier to pick and use. And so you see here like main crop apple, here's an aronia.
Yeah.
Here's a little rugosa rose in here. And when it's new, it all just seems like there's so much room. But now I'm like, why did I plant those right next to each other? It's dumb. Yeah. So, like probably next winter, and I'll dig more of these up, the rugosa rose, and move them around.
Well, you planted these how long ago? Like 15, 20 years?
Yeah, they're like 24 years old.
Yeah.
Here's another autumn olive.
Yeah.
Here's a native hazel, the California beaked hazel.
Okay.
And this might be the first year I'm seeing nuts on that.
Okay.
And I don't know if these hybridize. Those are the Turkish tree hazels that yeah. And then here's another plant. I wish I would have planted more of these. The mock orange is an incredible, like, just pollinator, attractor. And then the seed pods, you know, we don't tend to notice these. This is from last winter. Little winter birds like juncos and chickadees and towhees. This is a huge food crop for them. And, you know, and they're in there getting pests and stuff and pooping and...
pooping the blackberries for you?
Yeah, exactly. So you can see it kind of runs through here. And then another little crop block. These are the world record pumpkins. And then in here, go ahead.
So this access road is on the ridge going straight up to your pond, which is on the ridge.
Yeah.
And then basically each flank is...
Yeah. And at a certain point, I was like, I just want to make longer rows because for tractor cultivation, it makes more sense. But my ex, she's like, no, it's so nice to just walk up the middle and like for tours and stuff and then break it into a smaller bite-sized chunk, so to speak. So here's the black elderberry, the European one, which I think is superior to our native one. A big guy.
You got corn, comfrey.
Yeah, and then see here's apples and then a row of red currants that are just finishing up now. And then interspersed.
Double line of apples.
Yeah, then there's other stuff like elecampane in there that we get seed from, Siberian iris, and you know, and this is one of those Jerusalem sage. Yeah, so you know, like this, we didn't intend to put trees here. We'd read in some old Irish gardening thing like to use comfrey leaves for mulch on potatoes.
Yeah.
And so like 15 years ago we did that, and it rooted from the stems. And so we had just so much comfrey, and I had all these interns back then, so we'd try and dig and fork it out, and eventually I just gave up and surrendered. I'm like, well, comfrey and trees, you know, collaborate just fine. Absolutely. So in hindsight, that's cool, because by then I'd learned, like over here I have these Liberty apples, I think I have 5 of them, and they're awesome early, like September 1st, big, shiny purple red, totally disease-free, scab-free. So, you know, I think I planted 5 trees each of all these different varieties. And so I was like, oh, Liberty's awesome. Because you actually don't want late keeper apples for market. You want to show up early. Because as soon as September happens, it's a weird thing. And the kids go back to school. Everybody shifts from like peaches and plums and watermelon to apples because they want to put an apple in their kids' lunch. So these are perfect because they're just gorgeous and they have that bloom that you can like shine up. So I planted more of those here. And then at the far end, I had some gaps, and I just planted a bunch of the red-fleshed apples, which are popular. They're a novelty thing.
Red flesh.
Yeah, so inside it's like red. Yeah. So more seed crops here, a bunch of tomatoes, peppers, that kind of stuff. Over here, sweet corn for seed. It's popcorn coming up, Japanese false indigo. Everything's for seed, but that could be a dye plant, and then something behind that. I can't remember what. This is a zinnia. A mentor of mine crossed the two species of zinnia elegans, which is the tall one most people are used to, and the Zinnia hagania, which is a lower growing one, like Persian carpet is a common one, and that has like zonation. So instead of just one, there'll be like these different colors. So these, they get big, and the flowers have the normal like zinnia, the compound little yellow flowers in the middle, and then it's like fuchsia, orange, and pink, and then yellow. They're so cool. They're stunning. We sell out of seed every time I grow it. Cool. And then a new species of coxcomb. We do a lot. We probably have 120 varieties of flowers, because here in the U.S. right now there's a bit of a resurgence in small-scale flower growing, all really from one influencer, Erin Benzakian, who was just doing a little 2-acre flower farm up in Washington. Yeah. And she wrote this book called the Market Flower Farmer or something. Yeah. That then everybody followed her codes, but what really happened is Martha Stewart found her, and then that led to Flowers for the White House when the Obamas were in. Oh. And man, you go from like just another farmer to like millions of followers on Instagram, and then she's attractive, and her husband is a professional photographer, and it was just the right recipe, and it just blew up. And so she was a student in a seed school years ago, or seed workshop I taught, and I began to see like, oh, where is everybody getting their flower seed from of all these varieties? So I've learned by kind of tracking that and looking at the market trends there, what's hot, being a little ahead of the curve. So we, and those flower growers, because they have a really keen visual sense, they tag us all the time, and they're doing free advertising for us. So like this one is called Temple Bell, so it makes those big brain celosias in all the different colors. And I'm like, that's going to be hot. And then some other flower seed crop. This is the empty space is cucumbers. There's some okra coming up down there. Mexican sour gherkins that are looking a little sad right now.
That's so great, integrating all the crops and
the
flowers.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And we're here at early stage, so it's funny as you walk around, things don't look like anything, but like there's a cucumber there. Yeah. I just got to get in and weed, and my main weeder's off at a festival, having the time of his life right now, which is helpful. Yeah. So. Yeah, so here, to me, this is like, I love it when it looks like this. I'm like,
nice access.
I can actually drive the tractor through here if I roll down the roll bar, and I'm careful to not whack branches too hard. So hardy kiwis.
Maybe 3 meters between tree line with apples, currants, and then kiwi berries.
Yeah, and the kiwis, they get frosted back this year early, so we're not going to have a good crop. But it's every year you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
So here's another of these keyline canals. This one's going that way. And again, I can drive the tractor through here. I would have made that one a little wider. I think this is good. Up higher. It's funny, we tried different things, different spacings, and they all have their advantages.
Well, here, and it's like just barely, but it's probably noticeable. It's like maybe 3.5 meters here.
Yeah. And then there's aronias in between the apples here, and those ones rock. Like I found they like some shade, and the berries get bigger. Down here, similar thing, pears and different currants. And we're about to pull all this garlic, and it's all for seed. And so then we cure it, and then this will go into a buckwheat cover crop, which is supporting pollinators. And we got onions, Valencia onions for seed, fava bean I've been breeding. This is a bit of a truth reveal. Plant breeding is always you don't have a masterpiece every time, but I've been growing this variety that I brought back from the Andes. Oh, cool. I'm glad this one did. And so this one, I grow a large amount of them, and only like, at first like 5% or like this, and then it's 20%, and then it's 40%. And so this, I actually gave it a name. I used to just call it brown speckled, and so I'm calling it cappuccino. Nice. Because it kind of, to me, reminds me of I actually did an Instagram little contest of the top 3 names. Oh, cool. So I found with the seed company, like, we're going to be the only people in the world outside of like indigenous farmers in the Andes that have this speckled one. Even though most people eat fava beans at the green stage, but that is a very compelling, again, back to the fun, sexy, useful. So this gets people in the door of buying seed from us. This will sell out so fast. And I'll grow more, and it's helpful. I don't want to grow a whole field of it because I want to be growing it regularly enough to be doing the variety improvement. So that's cool. I'm happy to see that, but I know there's going to be ones that look like just the normal favas in here.
How many would it take to have? Like, would you be able to get those results from having 2 plants?
Yeah, I mean favas do cross, but the legumes in general are self-pollinated, so you don't need population numbers. Whereas like the onions, this is like the minimum amount. You want minimum of like 120 to get the genetic breadth to capture that.
Yeah.
Same with like this is a radicchio that we did. We stack a lot of functions here of growing. So this was a radicchio trial. I think we had 12 varieties I got from a friend. Did this collaboration between Smarties Bio, which is an Italian radicchio breeding seed production company, because they're super into it.
Yeah.
And my friend's Uprising Seeds, and so they call it Gusto Italiano. And so I got a bunch of packets. So like this one's called Beaujolais, and it makes like a nice head, but kind of a greenish yellow. There's ones that look like weird like horns that are purpley red, and so they'll all cross-pollinate, but look at even the genetic diversity here. White flowers, blue flowers.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to call this one, this all came out of this bigger culinary farmer event called the Sagra del Radicchio, which is like a festival of radicchio that has been happening for the last 8 years. So I'm just going to call this Sagra Mix. Yeah. Because most people, they don't know, like, oh, I want this kind. They're like, oh, really, I can grow this, and I'll get like 12 different beautiful kinds. Yeah. And eventually it'll all like, kind of like if you've ever mixed a bunch of watercolors together, you just get like a purpley brown. Yeah. It'll just default to the dominant genetics. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I'm learning as I go along, and we do a lot of research here. And then over here I've got more garlic, this barley, that'll be a new introduction.
Yeah, we looked at these yesterday.
Yeah, and still I'm going to have to, it seems so weird. I got to decide what I'm doing here, but in the meanwhile I can't let them cross with these. Even though it's pretty, that's beautiful, but I have another variety that already looks like that. Yeah. But if you throw that into the genetic mix of what that one is, yeah. Yeah, seed work is you got to be a little OCD and a little, yeah.
Be mindful of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, knowing there's like, we grow 4 different species of poppies, and they don't cross, plants only cross within species. So, and then you have to learn like which are self-pollinated and which are cross-pollinated. Like this here, this is broccoli, it's kind of weedy, and I need to run the water here. This is a yield trial that we're looking at as broccoli seed yield of 3 different varieties. So that's all that I want. And then I'm going to let them bulk, and then I'll have a what's called a synthetic cross of these 3 varieties of broccoli. Okay. So there's like, this is one kind, that's one kind. You can see that one over there. And see, look at that. This is always so fascinating, is the diversity within, like which one is this one? Okay, a buddy of mine bred this one locally over 10 years. It's called Solstice, and look at how well it's doing. Yeah. Boom, it's adapted to this area. Where this one over here, I can tell somebody harvested one there, but the heads are coming on, the canopy size is all different. Yeah. Yeah, and sadly my friend Jonathan Spiro, who bred that, he died. So, but we have his varieties. That's a cool thing of plant breeding. Yeah, and then we got spinach for seed here. Spinach is interesting. It's dioecious, so you got male and female plants. Okay. And the males just make pollen. See that? That's spinach pollen. And then you can see the female with all the ripening seed on there. And so the males always like flower early, but you only get seed from half the plants. And then in here is strawberry spinach. You know this plant?
I don't.
It's kind of a weird one. It's related. It's a chenopod. And you can eat the leaves, but these little seed pods, they'll get a little bit bigger, like the size of a pea, and they're brilliant red and juicy, like a raspberry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so you eat them like that.
Cool.
It's a total novelty thing. Like this much seed is going to be fine. Yeah, I got to get in weed here. And this is another one in the same plant family. I love doing all the diversity here. And, I've got another chenopod in here. This little patch is a mixture of orax, mountain spinach. That's like basically you can eat it like spinach. Yeah. But a lot of, I've noticed the flower growers use it as filler material.
I can see why.
Yeah. And then this is another one that I want to start marketing. It's called magenta lamb's quarters.
Yeah.
And
Amaranth, yeah.
No, it's a lamb's quarter. It's in the Chenopodiaceae family. So the Swiss chard, the spinach, the beetberry or strawberry spinach, orac, and this are all in the same plant family but different species.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have this is one that I was using a lot of in the early days of the food forest when it was.
Yeah, and salad makes
was
it
successful.
volunteers super. You can look at our weedy. This is actually a bed of onions I need to weed in there, but we have the weedy lamb's quarters is here, and it's. I don't think they cross. I haven't seen that occur, but I've actually never thought to look up the phylogeny of that. Well, let's walk all the way out here, and then we'll loop around.
Yeah.
And this here in Oregon, you're allowed to grow 4 weed
I was
plants.
kind of like keeping the camera off it.
That's fine. It's totally legal. Anybody can do it. So I rarely smoke, but my kids are into it, and it's like, well, it's nice to have stash.
It's your Ashland plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more onions in here, and so these onions will we'll replant in the fall for seed once they're bulbs.
Yeah.
And then nasturtiums. It's always fascinating to try different things here. So look, I did the ones on the weed cloth because the seed is about the size of a pea, and when it's ripe, it drops on the ground, which makes harvesting seed a pain. So I planted it on the weed cloth, but it wasn't long enough for the whole thing. And look at the ones not on it are way happier. And you can see all the gaps where it died.
Yeah.
And then radishes are the white flower. This is a plant in here. It's funny. It looks so much like the weed Cleome.
Okay.
You know this plant?
No, I don't.
It's a weird one. I can't remember what plant family it's in, but they get pretty big. People also call it spider plant. And when I was in Kenya, they eat it as a leafy green. And it's like a weed everywhere in their agroforestry systems.
Yeah, interesting.
So we sell it mainly as, for cut flowers, but I was like, I would never even think to eat that. They also ate like black nightshade as a leafy green and pumpkin leaves.
Yeah.
Like everywhere.
Yeah.
And lots of collards. Like every meal was like you always had a dark leafy green. Yeah.
Anything that's not going to kill you from eating the leaves.
Yeah, and then here, winter squash. Yeah. And there's a bush butternut variety. And it's funny, like as I walk around, I'm reminded, like, well, what did I plant here? Beans coming up, different kind of beans. Other beans already for seed. I got a little peach orchard here. Over time, it's interesting how you learn little microclimates. And I've kind of struggled getting some established. You can see I've got some curl and I've done some new planting, but it's like these little kind of microclimate pockets are so cool.
Yeah, but it takes time to observe and learn.
Yeah, and I was telling my son, I'm like, oh, we got a pollard that black locust there. And you can see some other black locust tucked in here. And curly willow is like...
Love it.
Yeah, we'll sell it like in the off season for basketry and stuff.
Do you guys do any high pollarding? Because that's basically like the
I do some, and like late in the year when it's just hard to have green grass, you're just swimming upstream, for the animals, especially like willow and cottonwood and stuff.
But in terms of like you mentioned pollarding that the locust over there because the peaches.
Yeah. Yeah, like we don't need to cut it down. Well, it depends if there's animals in there.
Yeah.
So this pond, I'm
opposed to a coppice, right? Coppicing at ground
level. Ground. That's my understanding.
High pollard would be like, 4, 5 meters.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, to give the canopy space to.
We did that to that cottonwood there. Oh, yeah. You can see the kind of basically the leg-sized branches. I cut it. We can walk around this pond and you can see it. This, I need to fill it, but it's just been like a duck pond. We used to have more like 30 or 40 ducks, and we had geese for years. Nice. And I used to have all these little willow woven fences to keep ducks out of areas. And, back when we had interns, I just... Easier to maintain. Yeah. And eventually the land, it's just like, that's too much effort for what you're getting out of it. So, I don't really know what I'm doing here with this pond. There is fish in here. And I've got the Azolla, but we only have a couple ducks right now because we used to, in the early days, we'd put the ducks in every night and we'd put the sheep in every night and we were like really managing it. And I realized one way to avoid burnout is just be a little more slack with your management. Like, some ducks got picked off and it's a bummer. But it was like when my kids are little, like if a duck got killed, it's like, oh no, Fluffy died or whatever. So... but this doesn't have a lock pipe. I can overflow it, and then the overflow is like a keyline canal that goes that way, and then back through here. And then there's another pond over there that it goes into. And, I mean, this one is really just wildlife. I have a little AC pump
Yep.
that was just from a garden hose that I can pump from here for gardens right here.
Perfect.
So, like any good system, you want redundancy.
Yeah.
Redundant systems. So, but you can see a remnant of a old fencing system because we used to have like, okay, this way we can keep the ducks from going up in the field because ducks can actually create quite
Yeah.
So, and even 25 years in, we're still, I'm like, well, why don't I have a tree here? It's totally green.
Yeah.
But then the trick, and this is classic permaculture, is like this was a Asian pear, but I like hit it with a tractor, not paying attention or probably listening to rock and roll and driving too fast. And now it's a rootstock. So I got to regraft that or bud it or something. And then it's funny. One of the things I was really into when I was younger was going into the woods and getting. This is a native plant called thimbleberry. It's kind of like a raspberry. They're still ripening, and and using it to fill in gaps. And this is cool, but it's a bit like, whoa, you're really taking up some space here. I think birds are getting most of the ripe fruit because they don't mind eating it unripe.
Yeah.
So, and then there's a hazel there, more apples. But we'll walk around this way.
Yeah, it's funny what you said about that tree being in the wrong place because the tractor hit it.
Yeah.
It's, one of those Mark Shepardisms of like, hey, if you hit a tree with the tractor, it's like, it's design feedback. It's like, wrong place with a tree.
I know. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you guys ever grow these honeyberries.
Yeah.
Linus, they're so cool. I would never want to do them commercially because they seem like a pain to pick. Because like they fruit so early, and then all these new shoots. Well, here's a late one. Form, so the fruit is all like down in there, not like raspberries where it's at the tip.
Maybe some kind of shaking. How are they done?
You know,
on a larger scale?
there's in Japan, from what I understand, I have a friend who's a hazelnut breeder at OSU. And he, one time at a plant breeders gathering, brought this flask of, what do they call it? Haskap.
Yeah.
It's like a liqueur. So if somebody's growing it on scale. Yeah, so we're kind of looping in here now. Here's this keyline canal going this way. One of the things I've learned, too, is like this is a major tractor and truck access point. You can see it's all beat down. Is that over time, sometimes like the berm here, I might need to bring in some material to bolster this just from compaction for so much time.
And all that work that you're maintaining is with the...
Yeah, this super beat up, that I got basically new.
Oh, you got it new.
Well, it was what's called a rental return. The orchards in Medford would rent them, so I got it with 300 hours on it.
Okay.
Substantial discount. But this has been a great workhorse. I mean, I'm on the second engine, second transmission.
Yeah.
But for forestry and stuff, so that's one of the things I'm seeing now is like, I don't really know how to weld, so we just got like welding equipment, and you can see like my tractor bucket, like see the weld points are breaking in here, and I've had it repaired, but I'm like, no, we need to be able to do that ourselves, because if you use this for logging, you're putting so much force.
Yeah.
Or I've even, dug swales, and you can do a lot with it.
Is it coming to get the grapples here?
What's that?
The grapples?
Not on a tractor, more on a backhoe or excavator. Yeah.
The new, we were just in one of the Kubota dealers in
Okay.
Ohio, and they're putting grapples on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for forestry, it'd be so helpful to be able to pick stuff up. But, like I used to have another thing on here, it broke, and I could put log tongs on, and I found like I could drive up, and you had to do a little bit of careful, but then without getting off the tractor, you could pick up logs and drag them. And I created a 3-point thing with chain hooks, so you could like back up to logs, drop it, hook them, and then do partial suspension yarding. At this point, I'm so over it, and my son is like wants to get the equivalent to, because I'm like, a lot of the stuff boils down to materials handling.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And in this, like, we have forks that go on here, but it's not really designed for all that leverage.
Well, yeah,
and
you probably wouldn't have because what is this?
The 31.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can do a lot, but I'm regularly pushing it up against its limits.
Yeah.
So if I were to redo it, I like the size, but I'd probably go like 40 horse. Yeah. And it's fine. I mean, in a way, I'd want to have a system that we don't even need this.
Well, but on so much,
but when you have one, you use it all the time.
The materials
yeah.
Said to move,
yeah, like I have a 3-point disc. I have a spading machine that's just so busted up that it's like it's not worth fixing again. So I've kind of settled down to just like these two. It's like it's not ideal, but it gets the job done. Like, people will come here and kind of critique, like, but rototilling. I'm like, look, you know, like a very small crew, like we're rocking a lot of stuff.
People will critique anything.
Yeah.
And then the question is, okay, what are you doing?
You know, but when I was new, I got a spading machine from Ferrari Tractor, and it was cool, like, you know. But it's so articulated, so many moving parts and bearings, and you can't get them easily. And that's where I think the long-term maintenance and determining what is as turnkey as possible.
Yeah. Well,
So-
even doing all this work that you're doing with the BCS would be just way less fun.
Oh, I've owned BCSs. I got rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. When we have rocks here, I don't know if you've had that experience. You hit a rock and it jumps
I
forward.
haven't. We don't have that kind of rocky soil.
Oh man.
Thankfully.
I mean, the rocks are cool. Like we built a lot of stuff with rocks. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
for me, mostly it's actually just like using the sickle bar.
That's what I liked it,
Yeah.
because it was like small scale haymaking.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm done doing most of my cultivation. Like it's
Yeah.
treatments. Like they're planted now. It's just managing.
Yeah.
You know, we get almost 2 meters of rain every year, so our
Okay.
grass is just crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like if I can cut that 4 or 5 times a season, perfect.
It's funny. I hadn't thought about a sickle. I've got one for the tractor, one of those fold out ones.
Okay.
But it's so much of our area. I've got like,
It's
ooh,
tight.
trees planted here, fence things there, and those sickle bars, when you hit something, you
Gone.
break teeth or the thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, that would be cool to have a sickle bar for areas like this,
Yeah.
and just to be able to cut it for mulch or whatever it is.
Yep.
And I used to do more of that work, and maybe my boys, you lose motivation and enthusiasm for it. Like, like we used to hand fork all these gardens here, and then mulch it all with grass from here. Like try and make it all exactly like there was going to be some award for being a good little permie or something. And now I'm like, this works. I'm going to bring some rice straw in, but then you bring rice straw and the chickens are going to mess it up. And so, like this is all just me in my spare time, like this garden here. And like we got, dahlia tubers and lots of food here. And so I think that's the thing at the end of the day is like what works versus what's ideal. It's like I know fertility is increasing. I know soil's happening, and like here's where we clean seed. And I always love looking here, and there's like a head of lettuce, Swiss chard, some squash, a pumpkin, like other stuff, and and like I think there is like a flywheel element. If you get up to a certain thing, just like how wildfire can go through an old growth forest, and it's like fine, but it goes through a young brushy field, and it sets the ecological succession back a big chunk of time.
Yeah.
So, and there's things that evolve over time. Like I just cleared out this fig. I've never really gotten fruit off of it.
Yeah.
But there are all these blackberries, and I'm like, okay, I'll give you another chance. Like, maybe.
There.
Yeah, we had a hard frost that damaged a lot of figs. But, like in here, when I first started this, I had all these little keyhole beds, and we were growing all these intensive seed crops. And then all the trees were young, and now I was limited by the roof height because I tucked this under the existing eave of the barn. So, we did the best with what we could do. But we built this whole thing for $1,000.
Yeah, wow.
Because all the windows were free.
Yeah.
All the poles were free, just our time. We had to buy some, dimensional lumber, or it's probably from what we milled. It was just mainly these roofing panels, this double wall polycarbonate, which is awesome. I didn't want a glass roof.
Yeah.
But now I look at it, and this is 65 feet by 16 feet and about, 10 feet high, but olive, this is a Meyer lemon, pomegranate, some crazy euphorbia somebody gave us, this big thing here. More pomegranate, more, all kind of citrus in here. And, like at this point, I'm kind of embarrassed to even point out, like, there's so much citrus, there's like limes on the ground. Like, and part of it I'm learning, like, well, when do you pick them? When are they ripe,
Yeah.
And some hold on to their fruit, and some just drop it.
There's some passion fruit in there, I think.
Yeah, yep. And, but these ones, they don't produce
This is so tight.
good. I know, I have to come see how they're hollow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if it's a pollination issue or what. Mate,
Oh, where's that?
this one here. And here's another young one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've got some seed, but it hasn't germinated yet.
Yeah, I've never got to germinate. That was when I bought. The passion vine I'd never put in here again. It's just,
Yeah, it's a bit of a
it's
wild.
so weedy. Yeah, the citrus has been a total win in here. So I'm just like, fill up with citrus. These are kind of new for me. I just ate my first ones the other day.
The,
Suriname cherry.
Yeah.
So this is the first year we got fruit. Like that one's probably going to be good if you want to try that one. But it's cool, like just learning new things and what's possible. Like here we are in Oregon, unheated greenhouse, eating tropical fruit, citrus. There's, that's grapefruit, more passion vine. I need to pull all the passion vine that's growing over a pineapple guava, Feijoa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's like
And those make tons of fruit.
That's like the keystone fruiting tree of New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
These grapefruit are huge.
God, those are trippy tasting.
Yeah, it's like a really, really sweet pumpkin.
Yeah.
Or a really sweet.
Yeah, so you can see,
Yum.
whatever it is. Well, you can see the Feijoa is flowering in there. You ever eat these petals?
Yeah, put them in salads.
I love them. And it's funny, like this used to be this very carefully tended cactus garden with all this pea gravel in there, but I have 6 cats that come in and out. So like when we first did it, you can see I had wine bottles set in cob. But then we got a big snow and a big snowbank, and it like erodes it away. So it's funny, it like eroded away over there, and I'm like, I'm not even going to fix it because that's the cat door.
Yeah.
But then my cactus garden becomes their litter box. So like I used to make stuff so careful, and there's just entropy is constantly working against you. So now I'm like screwing boards on the outside where the cob melted away, and the wine, like it looked really cool in the early days.
Too wet here for that.
Yeah, well, just the design,
Yeah.
Big snow load. Imagine the barn roof above this too. It's huge surface area of snow. I have to
How much snow are you guys getting here?
It's a novelty most years, but then about once every 10 years we'll get, a meter in a night.
Oh gosh.
And then that really tests your systems.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. So, yeah, we go into the
inside access in here.
Yeah. So, like the greenhouse too is cool because like in January when it's sunny,
Super nice.
and I used to, when it was less jungly, I called this my office. I would sit in there and my laptop working with the seed company, and then I was accessible, but I didn't want to be in here. I'll turn the light on. So I built this in 2010 as like an addition to my old barn.
Cool.
We can walk out that way. And there's an apartment upstairs that my younger son lives in. He's got his own kitchen and bath. And in the early days when I had all these interns and people living in school buses and teepees and stuff, this was like the main kitchen. I've got a bathhouse with a composting toilet, showers, and laundry. Because that's one thing I'm like, if you can't support people being there seasonally, and even though everybody thinks their life's simple, they want to be able to charge their phone, get on Wi-Fi, do some laundry, get clean, and when we first started, it was like people using the washing machine in our house, and they don't make washing machines for 10 people getting clothes farm dirty. So we're constantly breaking them. So, yeah, and so now this is our order fulfillment center, but it can also like ebb and flow. It's real quiet this time of year, so there's a whole group of 30 students coming from Evergreen College's agroecology program.
Cool.
And they're going to camp out for 2 days and help out. And I'm like, oh, you can use, we're already turnkey.
Yeah.
It's set up. There's a kitchen, dishes, just, don't make a mess.
Perfect.
When we're in
Freezer.
full speed here, we've got 6 people in here. It's all women. I find they're way better at the seed work. And whenever we have an opening, there's 2 women that have been working with me for like one 8 years, the other 10. I'm just like, do you know anyone that needs a job? So it's all their friends. So that's why I never hang out in here, because also it's like the gossip.
Yeah.
So we have had to actually have like mediators, and like it's not okay to gossip about so-and-so's boyfriend or whatever, because somebody's overhearing it, and like it's a funny thing.
Human dynamics.
Yeah, and so we made it that it's okay if you want to wear headphones in here and do your own thing. Yeah, so it's been interesting watching this evolve, and like it doesn't look like much, but a lot happens in here. It's all the stations, and then we do our germination tests are happening in these 2 old dead apartment freezers or fridges.
Yes.
Yeah, you can even see there's probably one happening here. It's supposed to actually be closed. Oh, there's not much happening. We use these little petri dishes and then a low watt incandescent.
So you're saying they're germination tests?
Yeah, so like we can keep the temperature of the 2, one's at 68, the other's at 74. I need to find some tape, but that's supposed to be taped shut. Whereas most seed companies outsource it to usually a university-based lab, and you're paying $12 to $15 per sample, and we do every lot every year.
Oh, wow.
on site. So it's like 2,000 lots because we'll have multiple lots for many things. So, and the way I look at it, I'm like, well, I could pay to send it off to a lab, but I'd still have to pay my workers to, measure out the seeds, put it in envelopes, and mail it off. And then the money's staying locally. Yeah. So jobs. So this is our main seed room. That's like a double wall, super insulated, and we run just a cool bot, and a converted air conditioner.
Yeah, nice.
And a dehumidifier. And the key is you want cool, dark, dry. So you want your temperature and your humidity. So we're at 48% humidity in here, and your temp to be below 100.
So that's what you want. You want 50.
Yeah, we're ideal right now.
Yeah.
We tend to burn through AC units because they're running 24/7, and you can imagine on a hot day.
But they're on solar, so like it's not.
Yeah. So in here it's like, we don't keep a lot of standing inventory, so the seeds mostly just in bags like this, and then we're packing out in bulk. Like here's a desi type garbanzo chickpea, but this isn't big seed selling time. So what's fascinating is like these three are what I'm taking to this conference in Idaho. Well, but there'll be like 10,000 people, and I'll make like $6,000, $7,000 on seeds. So that's what I love about how concentrated and dense it is.
Yeah.
Like this is worth that much money, and then it extrapolates out.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
And it's not like the handling care of like fruit, which is delicate.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
I mean, it is perishable, but seed lasts for a while. Like, tomatoes last 10 years if you keep it in good conditions like this. So yeah, we've got this room and some backup bulk here. You followed us all.
Before I leave, I'm gonna want to buy some seeds. And
yeah, you bet.
Take them back.
Yeah, I actually have a pretty good stash. And then we've got another room here that we keep not quite as cold. And we've learned the hard way. When the company was growing, I moved into cover crop seed. And this became the cover crop seed room. Oh, why aren't you on? Okay, I've got to troubleshoot that somehow. But we brought Indian meal moth into this room, and it infected, like we had backup corn and beans, like bulky seed in here, and it was so hard to get rid of that. So
Indian meal moth.
Yeah, just the like pantry moth.
And
it's the same thing.
Something.
On cover crop seed.
Oh.
Yeah. So now we keep that in barrels, not refrigerated, because it's just like it's not worth it. So this is we've been moving into tools. These are seed cleaning screens that I have a buddy make, wood and stainless steel mesh and stuff. And so it's like I can show you one. And this is something, that's really our North Star is that
supporting the friends who are in the industry.
Seed saving should just become commonplace.
Yeah.
And so teaching people how to do it and providing the tools, and these are just simple. You can make these yourself. They sell the hardware cloths everywhere. But, with this set of screens, you can do 99% of stuff. You don't need fancy things.
There's 3 screen sizes.
Yeah, so we have got a basic kit and an advanced kit. And I found for the basic kit, and I'm going to bring these to Idaho too, because of that homesteading community. But what's cool is my buddy is a woodworker, and he gets his son to help. So that's 1/8 inch. And this is stainless steel, not galvanized, and woven instead of, kind of metal glued together. And so that works really well for even like, let's say you're doing tomatoes, you cut them through like the hemisphere and you can just rub them like this, and then you can be making salsa or drying it and get the seed through. Or medicinal herbs, to separate the leaves from the stems.
Okay.
So yeah, so with these 3, you can do almost everything. And then the advanced one has like smaller ones for flower and herb seeds that are smaller. And the 2 together work great. So anyhow, that's been cool. I mean, we don't make a ton of money, but I pay my buddy probably, he probably makes between $5,000 and $10,000 from us. And so over time, I want to fill this up more with tools. We print up these hoodies mainly just for our crew.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to, have, like, here's what we use on the farm. So it's so cool with my workers, or my sons, really. I can be like, oh, Dad, the Hobro, and just like go in there and write down what you took. And so and that's one thing I think about, like, I'd rather my money be in like boxes of tools or seeds or these kind of things than like in a bank.
Yeah.
where you have no
We're doing
control.
A bunch of stuff with it. That's
Yeah.
great.
I think, let me just reset this really quick. Yeah, that's what it took. Oh, it was just off. Turn that off. Ready. Yeah, and then when I've done the Seed Academy trainings, it's nice to have, like, we do breakfast in here and have a little classroom space. I'm going to turn off this light and we'll go out this way.
Cool. Well, it's been great to see you inside of the shop.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. I love it. And
It's nice to end up the farm as well because you get to see all the operations and then like the inside.
Yeah.
That's a great door.
This barn was here when we moved here, and if you look at the ceiling, you can see it's hand split shingles.
Oh, nice.
So this is where, like, soon we'll just fill this up with garlic and seeds. This is where we do all, like, our cleaning. You can see we've got all our bins, and like DJ booth, subwoofer. You know, like, there's been some epic dance parties in here, and now my boys, you know, they have more control. Or you can see here, this porch, we do a lot of just seed processing, whatever, out here, and then we can be sweeping the residue. This is our main seed cleaning machine. It's called the Winnow Wizard.
Okay.
And basically a big fan, and then you can control. It's so low tech. Through these different screens with duct tape on them. Agitator up here, and it drops on here. We've got a really powerful magnet. Actually pulls dirt, iron-rich dirt out of the seed. This works. This does the work of like 5 machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys just made this.
No, my buddy who worked on a seed farm, but he had an engineering background, made it. We were the 26th one made. Now he has it made in China out of metal. But the plans are open source on this of how to make it.
Oh, cool. Where could you go to find that?
I think it's Luterra Industries, or just type in the Winnow Wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the Winnow Wizard. I should rewrite it on there because we were part of the early one. He would do custom art.
Oh, cool. Yeah, when it was like early bootstrapping days.
Yeah, but we, like, you can see I always leave my, like, old school setup here of just a fan and bins for winnowing, but learning how to do this for all the different species takes a long time, where that I can teach somebody in 15 minutes. They can be winnowing just as good as an expert.
Yeah.
And then this is running. You kind of have to tweak some things, but then you can be doing other things. And
Right. How are you using this?
yeah, if you look over here, so the squirrel cage fan runs through here. It's basically what is a laminar flow hood.
Yeah.
You know, so if I was doing beans or corn, I'd pull this out and just have those ones.
Yeah.
And so basically you can reduce the wind. That has a 2-speed motor, so it can be high or low.
Yeah.
And there's various parameters you can adjust. You can clean like yarrow seed or feverfew seed with this. So totally tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, that seed's like dust. Yeah, and this, I think it was $2,500. It's been amazing. Yeah. But then the other cool thing is this. You know, it's getting a little jungly, but this has been a stage for all these awesome gatherings here. Which, you know, especially when we had more people on the farm, I found was really vital for the morale.
Yeah, 100%.
Seasonal gatherings and you know, have a fire and.
Is that what that is?
Which one? Yeah. No, this is a empress tree, Paulownia tomentosa.
You sure?
Yeah. I planted it. This we planted the day my son was born. It makes these beautiful. Catalpa, you know, makes those long pods.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this.
I was looking for because I was seeing a bunch of catalpa around here.
Yeah.
And we got.
I don't see these that much. This was planted the day my older son was born.
Oh, so
like,
yeah, okay.
So, you know.
So you're sure?
Yeah. And I knew they were like, they're special.
Yeah.
Like the catalpa flower is on the emperor seal in Japan is a catalpa flower. And have you ever seen the koto? It's like a strings over a bridge, this long, it's like a Japanese harp, and it's like plucked and you push down and twang, you know, like that sound. They're all made out of this type of wood.
Yeah, Paulownia. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a bunch of these growing on the farm.
Yeah, they're beautiful when they flower.
Purple flowers.
Yeah, kind of a lavender flower.
Yeah, fantastic.
So
I was seeing a bunch of these leaves on the road, and I was like, I wonder if
they're very. So I bet you they might even be in the same larger plant family because
they're the same order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
just seeing, Don. This has 8%. It's
okay.
managed to record 155 minutes.
That's
so
probably pretty good.
We've done a fantastic job.
Yeah,
Thank you very
totally.
much.
Thanks, man.
It's been
Yeah.
a huge pleasure to walk around the farm. We've seen, from kind of the early food forest,
Yeah,
water management, larger for kind of forestry stuff.
Totally.
riparian
There's a lot.
zones, like the animals, nuts, all the cropping.
yep.
Infrastructure.
And it just keeps, we've got a whole other thing, greenhouses over there. But this is what I see. It's like, and maybe in closing, it's like when we first bought this place, it was like all the pet and the money we could scrounge together to pull off. We lived in this little one-room cabin.
Can I show this? This is
Yeah, and it was just the one room because we couldn't afford the mortgage without renting the house out. So we rented out the house, and then later I built an addition here with a bath and sleeping loft, and now my older son lives in here. And now I'm about to create an addition here to have like flush toilet and another like office or bedroom.
Yeah.
And then I've even told him, I'm like, if you're ever ready to like have kids and stuff, let's swap places. Which is kind of why I'm designing it with a downstairs thing, because I'm like, as you get older, like, do you really want to have to keep a whole 4-bedroom house, like warm, clean, all that? And so similarly, my younger son is in the apartment up there. And so just designing the succession into it, somebody could have told me that, but nobody did when I was younger. And these are both important for like, oh, I have great interns. If I can offer a better housing than like an old school bus or thing, then they'll stay. And then we go from that pioneer phase of an organism to a more mature one. So, yeah. And I know there's phases beyond that, but I haven't gotten to that point yet.
No, but we're talking about it. You're
Yeah.
envisioning it.
Yeah. So,
But it's great to see kind of the beginning story of how
yeah.
you've pulled this off and expanded in sequence.
Yeah, bootstrap. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Where can people go to find more about you? The website, Instagram?
Yeah, we're at Siskiyou Seeds. It's kind of the main portal, and we're on all the things except TikTok. And we have a YouTube channel for Siskiyou Seeds, and my son helps with the content creation of that. And I'm mentoring him inside of it, like, how do you grow corn? Just simple things.
Yeah. And it's going to be really cool for him to have that down the road of like, that's the oral tradition that
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
speaking about.
Yeah, so those are the main things.
Well,
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, super great. My pleasure.
You're writing a book as well, so
Yep.
people will see that when it
Someday.
comes out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.